you're on.
Good evening and welcome to the Timberlane Regional School Board meeting of April 5th, 2018. Welcome all of you. Roll call, please, Mrs. Belcher.
Brian Boyle.
Here.
Lee Doobie.
Here.
Kim Farah.
Here.
Dan Guide.
Here.
Sarah Mockamer.
Here.
Sean O'Neill.
Here.
Sue Sherman.
Here.
Jennifer Silva.
Here.
Kelly Ward.
Here.
Seated with the board are the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Earl Metzler, and Student Representative Brian Lavoie. The presence of other district administrators as well as Timberlane Teachers Association officers will be reflected in the meeting minutes.
We all can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. We have minutes to approve. If we could, just a couple of sets there. I'd like to get through that so that they're not hanging around.
You want to do them all at once?
Let's do them one at a time. February 15th. So we have the regular board meeting of February 15th to approve, or accept, rather. I'll entertain a motion when we're ready.
Make a motion to accept.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Ward, second by, I'm sorry, I didn't
It was
catch
me,
who was.
Sue.
Danny. Mr. Guide. If there are no questions about the minutes, indicate, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Hands, please.
6.
Opposed? Abstaining.
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Motion to approve the March 22nd, 2018 minutes.
Motion by Mr. Guide,
I'll second that.
That was the organizational one.
Yes, the organizational meeting one, sorry.
this is the organizational meeting, yes.
This one. Yeah.
Any questions on the minutes? Yes, Danny.
No, never mind.
Never mind, okay.
Nope, never mind.
There are no questions. Move to accept, all in favor? Looks like 8 of us. Opposed, abstain, 1. Now to the special meeting of March 22nd.
Motion to approve March 22nd, 2018 special meeting minutes.
I would like to make a correction at the bottom of page 1 of 2. So page 1, it says Mr. Guide, motion to adjourn, and was seconded by Mr. Doobie. I didn't recognize either of those motions. I adjourned.
Okay.
So I heard them speak, but we did not vote because I did not accept the motion on the floor. So I'd like that to be some note added there that I didn't accept the motion. Or the second. I didn't recognize the motion of the second. And I adjourned the meeting.
So do you want to just put a footnote in this as Madam Chair Sherman didn't recognize?
Yep,
That's
that's what I'd like to have,
Or whatever,
if you
okay.
mind. If there are no questions, do we have a motion for these to be
I
accepted?
motioned, I don't know if I got a
Do
second.
you have a
or not.
second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Sarah. If there are no questions, then we'll move to accept. All in favor? Looks like 8. Opposed?
Not opposed. Abstention guy.
Abstention. Abstention.
Madam Chair,
Okay.
we do have a set of sealed minutes as well. Do you want to do those now, or would you like to save those for later?
We can do that later. Well, Brian Lavoie, nice to see you again.
Thank
you.
This is Brian Lavoy. For our listening public and viewing public is our student representative. He's completing the year. So we got a jazzy report for us,
I got
sir?
a few things to mention. So as you guys might know, I haven't been at the past couple meetings, and a lot of meetings have been canceled. So there was a lot of stuff to talk about. I kind of shrunk it down to what's been happening recently to kind of keep it like a regular report. So up at the high school, we have the Milkman Improv Show coming up next Thursday, a week from today, on April 12th. And we also had one previously in March, on March 23rd. That was on the National Improv Day, which is, it was a big thing over at the Performing Arts Center. All of the music groups up at the high school, the band, orchestra, and the chorus all participated in the large group music festival. The band and orchestra earned 4 out of 4 in both their performances, and the concert choir and the chamber choir for the chorus both received 3s, and the chamber choir actually was the highest scoring choir in the state at large group, which was phenomenal. Recently, we've also had a lot of different. The math team has gone to a lot of their meets and some math competitions. They do a lot of stuff throughout the year. This is kind of their time of a lot of different competitions. There's a Model UN conference in UMass Lowell this week. It was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so they'd missed some school, went to the conference. So I'm hoping to hear back about how that went. I haven't actually heard back yet because they participated still today.
Can I jump in? They won
Yeah.
best school.
They did win best school?
Yes.
Awesome. I hadn't heard yet. Awesome. Actually, starting tomorrow, we have the government club going down to the State House for the Youth and Government program. That's all weekend. It's something that they do every year. It was approved by the board a few meetings ago. Last night, the World Language Honor Societies up at the high school had their induction ceremony for all the new inductees to the honor societies. Spring sports are kind of up and running. We have the lacrosse team, baseball team, softball team, men's volleyball, a bunch of sports up at the high school and middle school. Gotten started their seasons, kind of kicking off right now. Down at the middle school, recently we had the same thing with the sports. Their spring sports are kicking off. We have multiple of their different concerts, the choruses, the bands, orchestras all do their music in our schools month, the March concerts and such. Same with all of the elementary schools as well. In Pollard, their second grade play is happening next Thursday, so they have that to look forward to. So any Pollard parents out there, you guys can go check that out. And then at the Atkinson Academy, their DARE graduation is on April 17th, so coming up in a couple weeks from now. So, and as of now, that is all I have.
Sounds like you've been busy.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, welcome back. We're glad you're here, buddy. It's winding down for you.
Sad to see it go, but
Time to move on. Thank you very much, Brian. All right, moving on to delegates and individuals. We have quite a healthy pile here of requests. And before we start, I want to say a couple of things about all of this and make sure that everybody in our viewing public as well as in the room understands. We have policies that control delegates and individuals. The school board encourages public attendance at all our regular board meetings. We never would be disencouraged to be here. These regular meetings are held to conduct the business of the board as it relates to what we're in charge of, school policies and programs and operations. And quoting directly from policy BEA is that these are not public meetings, but in fact meetings we hold in public. The individuals and delegation portion of this regular meeting is an opportunity for the public to make comments on topics or bring information to us that we think would help us in our business deliberations as we go along. But our policy, which is BEDH, I'm learning all those letters, prescribes that the comment is anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. We can waive that by board, but the policy states it's within that frame, works. And it's not a legal forum. It's not a time to bring complaints about students or employees or personnel or specific individuals or to even mention job titles. The comments should be mindful that we have students in the room and we have families, and they should be expecting privacy rights. We're here to listen. This board is here to listen, and we are exceedingly respectful to the fact that you are our public. I would remind us, the individual members of the boards, that we don't have any authority to act independently in any official capacity. So if a question is directed from the public to any individual board member, we're not going to answer it directly back to you, but we will ask that we will defer the discussion back to our full board at a later time. We don't have a policy that monitors social media. We don't have a venue to post online responses in any official capacity. If there are citizens that have concerns or complaints or questions, you should communicate those directly to the appropriate school personnel that would be involved and could help you and get direct information. So social media platforms shouldn't be used to conduct our school business. Nor will we consider putting a post on one of our own Facebook pages as anything official school board business. It's not official. I might put a happy face next to a congratulations, but that's not official. It's merely an unofficial happy face. I'm expecting that the speakers in any time are conducting themselves in a civil manner, and our policy says that any remarks which are deemed to be obscene or libelous or defamatory or violent will be considered out of order. The chair will ask the speaker to stop, and if the speaker is not respectful to that request, the privilege to speak will be terminated. That's directly from the policy. So if everyone understands those parameters of the policies that protect both groups and protect all of us, I have Brian Lavoie for number one speaker. Brian, would you?
Do you want me to go over there? You want me to stay here? It's up to you.
Would the board be all right if Brian
Yep,
spoke from here?
absolutely.
All right, thank you. I'm just going to read right from here. Due to the recent announcement of over 50 staff being let go as a result of budgetary constraints, it has come to my attention that multiple students are fearful of the future of the Timberlane Regional School District and the quality of their education. I have been at all the meetings and witnessed the discussions on the budget, but I am not here to address that. I am here to give a student perspective on the issue. There have been multiple petitions circulating the high school because of fears of losing some of the most important staff members in the building. We as students don't always get to see the big picture when it comes to things going on here at Timberlane, but on the issue of losing teachers, we are all ears. Looking out the audience tonight, I can see a vast array of students from different backgrounds and different interests in the school. Whether it's athletics, music, theater, honor societies, academic clubs, or even any other club here at Timberlane, every student would be drastically affected by the loss of one teacher, let alone 50 or more professionals. I see the massive effects of individual teachers on a first-hand basis. As a student, I have developed bonds with teachers closer than many of the other adults in my life, and they have helped shape the person that I am today and the person that I hope to be one day. And I know I am not alone in this sentiment. These professionals here care about us students and give their time to us students both in and outside of the classroom. I guarantee if the budget is given a more significant look and there is a chance that we can save some of these teachers. We didn't become one of the most sought-after school districts, in my opinion, to raise a child by cutting teachers. We got to the place we are because of these fantastic professionals that I could not even fathom losing for future generations here at Timberlane. Thank you for your time.
Nicely said, Brian. Thank you. Mr. Green, Arthur Green from Sandown, will you come to the table? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Sherman. Thank you, School Board. My name is Arthur Green. On March 13th, Timberlane voted 63% to defeat the proposed budget for 2018-19. I'm here to show you how generous Timberlane's residents are to the school district and how respectful this school board should be toward our residents' generosity. Since 2008, enrollment is down 24%. Our staffing level has barely changed, and cost per pupil is up 60%. The default budget voted on March 13th is not a reduction. It is a $100,000 increase over the current year. Meanwhile, other districts of a similar enrollment, number of schools, and educational program are able to produce superior academic results at a far lower cost. I've shown that if our schools were staffed like similar schools in Bedford and Salem, our overall district staff could be lower by almost 100, with no increase in class size and no reduction in special ed teachers or aides. These are districts which exceed Timberlane's academic results. Now, Superintendent Metzler has stated to the press that the voted budget underfunds the district because it's $1 million less than the defeated budget. But if our cost per pupil were the same as Salem, our budget could be lower, not by $1 million, but by $6 million. The budget given to you by the voters is more than ample to meet and exceed all the legal and aspirational needs of this school district. Now I can guess why the school district thought it appropriate to whip up panic through the press in recent days. But when the administration complains of underfunding, it's up to you, the school board, to point to neighboring districts such as Salem and insist that what they can do, we can do. Mr. Lee Dubé and Mr. Kelly Ward, representatives here for the town of Sandown. I'd like to remind you the town of Sandown voted 78% for the default budget. Your neighbors are watching your actions here and are counting on you to respect their voice at the ballot box. There are several members here who were on budget committee and voted for a budget $100,000 lower than the budget which was eventually approved by the voters. It's up to you as elected representatives to respect the vote of March 13th, respect the generosity of voters who are entrusting you with over $20,000 for every single student in this district.
About another minute, Mr.
You have more than enough money. Manage.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Mrs. Lowe's, Sheila? Over here.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Rose, and I am a renter in the district from Sandown, and a recent candidate for District Budget Committee. As you know, I placed a formal complaint to this board on March 19th, 2018, in regards to a message. Since then, I have had 5 board members that have acknowledged my complaint. Thank you. However, I have not had one response from the board as a whole. I have had a response from the SAU in regards to the complaint, and no investigation was needed, per the SAU, which, to be honest, I found very confusing, as I did not address any of my emails to the SAU, only to my elected board members. So somehow my email got to the SAU. All of you have the correspondence from my back and forth conversation with the SAU, and will note that I specifically did not want the SAU involved. In fact, I cited conflict of interest. Each of you received my formal complaint and what I have requested. Again, no answer from the board as a whole or from the chair. So now I'm requesting a formal hearing in regards to my complaint, as my reputation has already been attacked and tarnished. I also request that this be acted upon at the next school board meeting if possible, April 19th, as the issue is simply not going away. The families of this district deserve immediate action on this issue from their elected board. And I thank you, and I have my letter.
Thank you, Mrs. Lowe's. If you
Thank you.
Ms. Toth, are you here? Jennifer? I'm sorry, Jen.
Here, I'm sorry.
That's fine. I'm sorry. I'll repeat it again.
I'm Jennifer Toth, the Vice President of the Timberlane Teachers Association, as well as a Sandown resident. President Richmond sends his regrets that he is unable to be here tonight. His prior and primary commitment is to his students, with whom he is attending the Youth in Government Conference in Concord, starting this evening. As representatives of the Timberlane teachers, who speak tonight and always for them, no one else, our role as TTA officers is to speak up for the teachers to be sure that their role in the Timberlane community is not overlooked. Throughout this process, that has been our goal. It was not our role to create the proposed budget or the default budget. We did not create this budget, but we have made it a point to speak up throughout the budget process to point out the consequences of underfunding legally required budget items. We are seeing one of those consequences now in the proposed staff cuts. Whether there are 50 people cut, as has been mentioned, or fewer, there are consequences to the entire Timberlane community. Most importantly, students will feel the impacts of these cuts. Staff members will work hard to ensure that all students receive the best education possible, whether there are 20 students in their classes or twice that. But realistically, it is not possible to give the same level of personalized attention to the needs of 30 or 40 students as it is to the needs of 20. It is not possible to offer the same level of day-to-day services and programming to students with fewer staff members. Furthermore, the impact of this process on the staff has been very evident this week. Morale is very low. Staff are scared. Talented young teachers have been in tears, wondering if they have done enough for their students and how these budget decisions will affect their own lives. Veteran teachers are upset and worried for peers and wondering how these proposed cuts will affect their students and their jobs in the future. Tonight, we ask you to please consider the consequences to our students and to the entire Timberlane community as you make decisions about how you will spend the money provided in the 2018-19 budget and about who will continue to be a part of our community. Thank you.
Mrs. Hirschenroder?
Thank you. I'm Laurie Hirschenroder. I'm the president of the Timberlane Support Staff Union. I'm here once again in solidarity with TTA. The impact of words, actions, and budget cuts is in full effect. It is deeply felt by my incredible colleagues who have received their pink slips. Employees who have dedicated their lives to educate and serve the children of our communities. As a union representative, I attended a meeting today where my friend, a valued employee of the district for over 15 years, was told her letter of agreement would not be renewed. We are losing our library assistants. Her greatest concern after being told she is losing her position, the students. She is worried about students losing access to the books. They love coming to the library. And she knows every single student in the building, every single one. That is what made her tear up, that and that only. That describes the caliber of the staff we are cutting. All employees fear they are next on the chopping block. It has been a disheartening time in our schools. Damage has been done. Anxiety is real, uncertainty is real, disappointment is real, hurt is real. Through all the nasty social media comments, rumors, accusations, misinformation, lies, and complete ignorance, what will my colleagues and I do? We will continue to show up to school, giving all that we have to do our small part of trying to make this world a better place, one child at a time. Regardless of how we got here tonight, everyone is looking to you, the 9 members of the school board, to work together. Roll up your sleeves and fix this. Commit to the fact that the elimination of over 50 positions should only be a last resort. We are Timberlane proud. We love our students. We love our jobs. It's time for you to do yours and save our staff. Please.
Mrs. Whitman? Hang on, Mrs. Whitman. Dean, is the other microphone on? Are they both on?
Can I just move it?
Yes.
Okay, you don't need to move that. I just wanted to be sure that one was on for you.
Sorry. One second. Good evening. Noel Whitman, Danville. On January 18th, I presented to the school board a formal complaint citing the New Hampshire Right to Know Law 91-A:2, Part 2, meetings open to the public, as well as Timberlane Regional School District Policy, KEB, paragraph 2 and 3. An investigation occurred, and on February 13th, I received an unsatisfactory response from the SAU. So again, following policy, on February 15th, a request was made and granted by the school board to have an executive meeting of the board for a hearing or appeal of the SAU decision. I followed the process. I took care to protect everyone's identity and reputation. It's time that you honor your decision by granting my hearing as soon as possible. Madam Chair, can you please add this non-public meeting to your agenda? I can wait the final 3 minutes of time allowed under delegates and individuals if you wish to confer with each other. Thank you.
We'll take it under advisement. I said at our beginning we would discuss this at a further point. We need to have the whole board involved, so thank you, Mrs. Whitman.
Okay, I just haven't heard anything. So,
Michelle Parker, Sandown.
These are not tears of weakness. These are tears of passion. My name is Michelle Parker. Excuse me. I'm a Timberlane alum, a taxpayer, a parent of a middle schooler, and an educator that has worked for this district since 1997. I'm also one of the many who are not being offered a letter of agreement for the upcoming school year. I'm not here for sympathy. I'm resilient and I will land on my feet. I'm here tonight to remind people that we need to put the needs of our children first. Our children need high quality, personalized instruction that takes into account their unique learning styles and a diverse range of abilities. This kind of instruction only comes from people. People who are losing their jobs. People who will no longer be able to share their passion for teaching and learning. I encourage you to do what is best for our children and reconsider the way in which the district makes up for the shortfalls. Furthermore, I encourage you all to reflect on where we are today, how we got here, and to make a concerted effort to not land here again. Our children are what is most important. I thank you for your time and your consideration.
Mrs. Costa.
Good evening. My name is Liz Costa from Plastow. I used to sit where Sue Sherman is and where you all were. I understand the difficulties that you're facing at this point in time. but I'm here this evening to ask that you look at how the events of the last few days will affect programming, delivery of curriculum in larger size classes, the climate and culture within the buildings, and the morale of the staff. But most importantly, how will the events of these past few days play out in the coming months? How will it affect our children in their learning, in their education? And you need to do what's right and do what's right for our kids. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody who was respectful during all those moments. Appreciate you following our policy, and appreciate the board hearing carefully what our public had to say. Moving on with our agenda then. We have a donation that, we've had quite a backlog of things on the agendas, so we've got, I think, some donations that we could kind of
Madam Chairman?
kind of get it out of the way and get these donations off and running. So can I have the donations done? Is this Scott? Are you doing that?
Madam Chair, board members, thank you for your time this evening. I'm Scott Strange, acting principal of the high school. Mark Pedersen, our Dean of Science. As you mentioned, we have a number of donations that we'd like to bring before the board today that have been approved by the SLT and moved to the board for final approval and acceptance. The first one is a $2,000 donation to Project Hope. The donor wishes to be anonymous at this point. It's a $2,000 donation to Project Hope. The Project Hope Strut for the Cure is this Saturday, April 7th at 6:30 at the high school. Shameless plug. Their goal this year is to raise $10,000 in this event. If they do that, then over the last 9 years, they will have raised over $100,000 for cancer research in support of cancer patients and their families. Amazing the work that our students do to get that done, and the teachers that support them. It's pretty amazing to see. If you have not been, I would encourage everybody to make an effort to be there. They've been working for months on this event. Second is from the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. This is another $2,000 grant that comes to us from the Doris and Vivian Horton Fund, one of the foundation's advised funds from the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. The grant, again, is for $2,000 to the Mealy's Meals Program. Originally, the Mealy's Meals Program was something that happened around Thanksgiving, but Mealy's Meals has really expanded to go over the course of the entire year to help families in need across our district. And again, the amazing coordination and effort of all of our staff. Our secretarial staff are the ones that really put all of the sort of mechanisms that together, and our staff and students spend their time driving around the 4 communities, delivering food, delivering cards for Market Basket for our families, delivering gifts at Christmas time. So it really has become something that has become year-round. So another $2,000 donation from the Charitable Foundation. I'll have one other, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Pedersen. This one is from Loco Sports. Loco Sports each year during December holds holds a 5K. What they did this year was the junior class executives and our student council donated their time and volunteered as workers at this event. And for that, Loco Sports would like to make an $850 donation to the class of 2019 for their help and support. Once again, we had a number of students, 25 students and teachers gave up their time on a cold December day, December 10th, to work at this event, to help set it up, to help run the event, and to help break down the event. So again, our staff and students rising to the challenge and taking this opportunity to serve their community, which our staff and students do so regularly and do so well. The last donation, I'll turn that over to Mr. Pedersen, as that directly affects a program that he runs over the April break.
Well, actually, I'd like to take this opportunity to ask the board to accept a $3,000 donation from TRHS graduate and Atkinson resident Tom LeBay. He would like to support STEM education throughout the district, and I feel as though this money can be used to support our phenomenal secondary science teachers in providing them needed equipment and supplies to sort of raise the bar in what they're doing in the classroom with the extended time that they have to really do some experiments that they've never been able to do before. DNA electrophoresis, PCR machines, do some really cool things in physics, chemistry, sort of raise the bar and support them in that rigorous work that they're trying to accomplish at the high school.
That's all of them?
That's all of them.
Mr. Guide,
Can we accept all of them at once?
I was hoping we could.
I'll motion to accept all of the donations with great gratitude.
Mr. Guide makes with great gratitude.
I'll second it.
I'm gonna let Mr. O'Neill take a second. I think I heard him speak. So, if there's any questions about the donations? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor of accepting the donations? Looks like unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen, very, very much.
Thank you.
We thank the board, we
Appreciate
thank
that.
our staff and students.
I would call your attention in the packet, I know we had a lot of papers in there, but for the new members, we try to put the policy in behind any action, so you can see that you are following policy KCD about gifts and donations. So because those exceeded the number that we can accept, we had to go through this process tonight, but it's always nice to hear who is, who's offering what.
Much appreciated.
Much appreciated is right. Student trip is our next thing. Oh, you have something else?
I do. I have another donation.
Yes, Ms.
Beth
Rincon.
Rincon from the Director of Special Education. I'm here on behalf of the Knights of Columbus. As you remember, every year they do a Tootsie Roll drive. Our staff go out and work with them to collect money. They turn around and donate that money back to the school and for school staff who have participated. And this year, I'm happy to report that it's a total of $1,600 that they are donating. Middle school, $600, Atkinson, $500, Pollard, $250, and Danville, $250. And the money is earmarked specifically for students with special education needs to go over and above field trips, transportation, maybe some equipment, specialized equipment that we hadn't been able to buy. So I'm here to thank them specifically for all their efforts partnering with the school and to thank our staff for stepping up and doing this as well. And would like you to respectfully accept the donation.
Danny?
I'd like to make a motion to accept that donation and thank the Knights of Columbus for doing that and all the staff members that participated in the Tootsie Roll Drive.
I'll second that.
The only question I have is that you're basically putting some conditions on that. I'd like to actually have the motion acknowledge those conditions. Is a suggestion. It was actually earmarked for special needs.
How each appropriated would go to each school, you mean?
No, that was how it was raised, but the funds are going specifically to a particular cause,
Yes.
and that's what I'm
Yeah, she's got
recommending
it
that
listed
the.
out. So moved.
Have you got it?
If
So
you're good
moved,
with
yes.
it,
Would you
I'm good with it.
Additionally add that to the motion and.
However it's broken out, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Beth, and
Thank you.
thanks. If there aren't any other
Did I get a
questions?
second? I missed the second, I'm sorry.
It was, I accepted
Oh,
Kelly's.
thank you.
Questions? If not, call for a vote. All in favor? Looks like unanimous. Thank you very much. Donations all around.
Thank you.
Student trip. Let's go to the Galapagos Islands. The reason this trip is here is because this is a new adventure. And we bring new trips and opportunities so that the board is aware of them and has an opportunity to, under policy, I think it's more letters, BOA, BOD, JOA. I promise I'll get all the letters right, but we have a policy here in this pile. I know you don't like it when I'm funny. That covers these kinds of student trips. So again, I'll call that attention to the board. If you wish to read that policy, it is there. So welcome, ladies. Please introduce yourselves and welcome tonight.
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Hazelton. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. I'm a Spanish teacher at the high school. This is Bethany Weiss.
I'm a science teacher, a life sciences teacher at the high school as well.
So we're looking to propose a trip to the Galapagos Islands next academic year during April vacation. And what we're most excited about is that this trip will be interdisciplinary. So both Bethany and I will be taking the Spanish world and the science world and taking the students where they can combine what's usually taught in two separate contexts real-life experience on the trip with us. Okay. So in terms of the itinerary, we would be leaving on the Friday before April vacation on the 19th and arriving the Saturday so that the students have the day to rest before school begins back on Monday. What's great about the itinerary is that it really combines the Spanish language side of things as well as the culture, along with the science aspect that Bethany will talk about. So when we arrive our first day in Quito, we start the day with a cultural side of Spanish learning. Students are visiting a monastery, touring the city, getting to experience the architecture of Ecuador as well as the art. A lot of the artwork is based off of Ecuadorians reflecting on Spanish influence in their country, about their independence from Spain, so students can make some historical and cultural connections. After the more Spanish cultural side of the morning, we then get to visit the equatorial line. Students get to visit the equator and participate in an experiential museum. They get to interact with how physics is different on the equator as compared to other parts of the world, and then get to see that scientific nature of the museum from the perspective of the Inca, so how the Inca discovered where the center of the world is. Following Quito, we go to Isabela Island. Really exciting that the students will be able to interact with the environment, see geological formations on a volcano walk, and the marine life on a snorkeling activity.
And then the second of the Galapagos Islands that we would be traveling to is Santa Cruz Island, which is the most ecologically diverse. So we'll start the day at the Charles Darwin Research Center, where they have conservation efforts are centered there, mainly with the tortoise population. So we'll be able to see tortoises from shell to adult in a conservation setting, which we would have seen in the wild on Isabela Island the day before, so making that connection. And then we'll travel up through the Santa Cruz Highlands. Of the 14 islands in the Galapagos, every ecosystem that's present on each is present on the one island. So we'll travel through each of them and see unique plants, which is yay. They have daisy trees, which are, just as they sound, they basically look like dandelions, but they're the size of trees. And we'll be going into rainforest and along the coast and all these fantastic places. The next day, we go to San Cristobal Island, which is actually where Darwin first landed. So it brings in that historical aspect of his research there. And it's another day of really being able to take in the diversity of ecosystems. And we kind of shift a little bit to the shore on this day where there are huge sea lion populations, and we get to experience the tropical fish in a snorkeling activity. Then we'll go back to the mainland on our last day, and we'll interact with local artisans and experience a weaving workshop, and then go to a market where those goods are sold and then experience that as well. That night we travel back, so we arrive then here on the 27th of April as we'll be taking an overnight trip.
In terms of the purpose, I'll speak about the goals world language wise, and then Bethany can talk about some of the objectives for science. For the world language competencies, we're standard based, so everything that we do in the classroom is based off of whether it's applicable in the real world and being able to use our language in a real life setting. And the students in this trip would have the opportunity to really immerse themselves, use the Spanish language, hear Spanish in an authentic setting, interact with native speakers, especially when Bethany mentioned the weaving workshop, going to a local market, having to use Spanish to exchange money and speak with locals. Another purpose of ours is to awaken a sense of exploration and travel. For many students, this would be the first time they would be leaving the United States. I'll be chaperoning the trip this spring to Spain with Lindsay Prescott. We have several students going who have never left the country before, so giving that opportunity to them to explore outside of their bubble, make connections between their culture and other cultures, and then connections across disciplines between Spanish and science.
So then on the science side of it, as we're doing all of this fantastic language-based stuff, we'll also be in a place where one of the main tenets of life sciences was and when Darwin traveled there and he experienced the diversity of the genetic diversity as well as ecosystem diversity, led him to propose the evolution. And so to be able to be there and experience what he experienced and walk in his footsteps would be just an absolutely incredible scientific experience. So behavioral contract-wise, this is pretty standard. We put a lot of information here, but this is all along with the district standard behavioral contract that's signed for each of the trips. So it's outlined here if you want to reference it, but we figured we'd not go through it line by line.
Thank you.
So, yes, you're very welcome.
Unless you feel you want to.
You know, I'm good.
One more, along with the behavioral contract that students and parents both sign, we're traveling with the travel company EF. It's the same company that we're collaborating with for Spain this year, and they have various safety measures in place. We follow emergency protocol, and all of those documents are prepared, reviewed with the parents and the students, and EF is a wonderful resource in terms of supporting us with that.
And so that is part of what then is included in the trip cost, which is the approximation is based mainly on airfare that we would purchase closer to the date of the trip. Part of what this includes, it looks at maybe at face value like a high cost, but it's a really low price for everything that they're actually getting. EF provides both private services in terms of transportation, so we don't have to worry about missing buses, missing a ferry, getting stuck on an island. We have a chartered ferry that's personally ours, a bus that will take us everywhere in the mainland. They also give us access to 24-hour emergency services and all sorts of other things. Beyond that, traveling in a group and traveling with a travel group allows us to go to many places that if this trip were kind of constructed in a different way, would be far more costly than it is. So, yeah.
In regards to the advantage of traveling with EF, it's an accredited educational program. So students who travel have the opportunity with that cost included to receive a high school elective credit through the travel. So they enroll ahead of time. They do an individualized program, a little preparation before and after, and they can receive credit, which is a nice opportunity for them. The only thing not included that price would be lunch daily, which I know for the Spain trip we've been talking with the students. They're excited to go to local restaurants, order off of a menu, use their Spanish skills, as well as tips and any souvenirs that they choose to buy when they're there.
Thank
Do
you
you have
very
any
much.
questions?
So you are seeking a permission to go on this great trip.
Yes.
And I know a great retired biologist who did much of her thesis work on, I don't know, Charles Darwin. He was really a cool guy. And I'm very excited. I'm kind of a tortoise lover. Many turtles in the classroom, so we'd be looking for a motion to accept and give permission for the trip.
So I will make that motion, but first I want to ask, what students is this offered to? Only students who are in both those taking,
It's not language specific or course specific. The
Okay.
only requirement is that they're a sophomore or older. Sophomore to a senior,
Yeah.
they have to be a student at Timberlane.
Okay, so do you guys have it posted on a bulletin board?
We haven't started
Well, I mean, if it gets approved,
But yes,
that's what you'll do, I guess, is how you
Yes.
gather students to do this type of trip.
Right, so for advertising for Spain last year, EF provides us with posters. We
Mhm.
make some individualized posters with pictures that we think will kind of get everybody excited. We hold info sessions with the students, and also I know that in different classes showed little clips for little like warm-ups or brain break to cut the block for the few minutes, to show the different sites that we'll be seeing, and we'll spread the word that way as well.
Now I'll make the motion
I'd like to
to,
get the motion on the floor, and then you can ask
I'll
some
make the
questions.
motion. I'll make a motion to accept the trip and allow them to take, I take it you need the 19th and the 20th off of April.
Just the Friday.
Just the 20th.
Oh, I'm sorry, the 19th.
Oh, I'm in the wrong year. Whatever day.
Yes, just the Friday.
The Friday.
Looking at the wrong calendar.
Now, hold on,
Thanks,
Mr.
Jen.
Guide. I'm a little looser. I'm happy to call you Dan, but you gotta get the date right so that our recording secretary gets the date right.
I think she knows what day it is. See, whatever day it is, and accept the trip.
So,
Second.
Mr. Doobie is willing to second that motion. Now questions, Mr. Doobie and then Jen.
So you have listed 12 to 24. Is 12 your minimum? If you don't have 12, do you not do it?
We can travel, I believe, with a minimum of 10.
10,
We wrote 12 to 24 just because both Bethany and I are collaborating, and then Lindsay Prescott in the World Language Department as well. So we're shooting high. We're hoping to give the opportunity to many students as it's both offered in both departments. But 12 is not the minimum that we need to travel. That's
And on the
just
other
our
side of
goal.
that, what's your max?
I believe 30.
You probably need more chaperones.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I'm sorry, Jen.
No, that was my question. What was the max number of students that could go on the trip?
All right, any other questions, concerns? Good luck getting this to happen.
Very cool trip.
Well,
Great,
thank you so
great
much.
trip.
Thank
So,
you very much.
all in way, we have to vote. Don't. If there are no other questions, we'll I'll look for a vote then. All in favor of the motion? Unanimous. Thank you very much, ladies.
Cool
Nice
trip.
trip.
Good luck.
All right, we are on to graduation date. Are you ready to share?
Good, yeah, well, Christie's gonna cut that.
18, 19, that's what I was like.
No, because it goes with this graduation date.
I get it now.
Mrs. Michaud, I know you're going to present the information. We have a lot of parents here who have been waiting. I have a letter. I want to make sure that gets into it. I said I would try to work this into the discussion, but I'm going to let the superintendent speak towards it because I think it leads up to what you're going to say. So.
Great. Well, we're currently working on the calendar, obviously with TTA for not next year but the year after. And I know it's been in the news recently about how we can look at the number of hours versus the number of days. And we have a really strong program with our Blizzard Bag program. We have looked at the hours in the past for graduation. I caution, as this conversation starts to get about hours, to not lose sight of the fact that when we have a collective bargaining agreement with TTA, a certain number of days that they need to work. When we start to replace days with hours and those sorts of things, bus drivers, unaffiliated, or people that work for Whitson's, people lose days pay, weeks on end. So these are all considerations. So it's not as simple as just count the hours and say they did enough work this year and let them go home early. It's a lot more complicated than that. But we do a lot of extra time in Timberlane. And so I think as we looked at this graduation date, and many kids were reaching out to me via email or Twitter about please, please, please keep the date. And we felt pretty strongly that we'd be able to bring this date that Ms. Michaud is going to bring to you in just a moment of June 9th, primarily because we meet those hourly requirements. But we don't want to replace our Blizzard Bag program, and we don't want to get into a lot of those other things about just counting hours. So that's in the news, and I appreciate that. But we think we have a pretty good program in place. So, Ms. Michaud, go ahead.
Absolutely. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm Christine Michaud, Director of Data Assessment and Accountability, and I come before you this evening in request to set the date for the Timberlane Regional High School class of 2018 graduation ceremonies. We are looking at the date of Saturday, June 9th, 2018. Pursuant to RSA 189:1, 189:24, school districts shall maintain in high school a school year of at least 990 hours of instructional time or 180 days. So I'm here tonight to confirm for you that by Friday, June 8th, 2018, the instructional hours at the Timberlane Regional High School will exceed the required 990 hours of instructional time as required by the RSA, just quoted.
Thank you, Christy. And I know we all probably received this late in the day, but the authors asked me if I would make sure you all noticed we did receive from two very proud parents whose sons are at boot camp right now on Paris Island for Marine training, begging that we consider June 9th as the graduation so that they can be home in their dress blues and graduate with their classmates. I promised I would read that and make sure you all noticed that. You did all receive that. It is in the pile of correspondence, which is here to my left, that you're welcome to look at. But I wanted to bring that to our attention. So we need a motion to accept that date, or are you just announcing that?
No, you have to approve it.
All right, so we need to approve that.
So moved.
So Mr. Ward makes the motion. Sarah, would like to make the second? Mr. Guide, comments?
In the off chance we have another snow day, how close, I know, whatever, I gotta ask. How close are we to that number?
More than a week.
Okay, good.
More
I'm
than a
good
week's
with
time.
that.
Yes.
So out there in public land, if you're a senior and you're watching, or if you're on Paris Island and you're watching, I hope you're well and healthy. The date on our vote, all in favor, is June 9th, 2018, right here on our lovely campus.
Congratulations, class of 2018.
Thank you. Amplify. Committee assignments, quick, you'll see in your packet, I took everybody's suggestions, and Mr. O'Neill, you and I can talk. Since you are our newest board member, we can probably find some little spots here. Look at this at your leisure. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this unless you want to deliberate it. I tried to give everybody as many of their choices. There were a couple of places where it's a little weak. We need to probably have another, I'd like to defer this discussion perhaps to next week, because I know we have other things we want to get to. Ask that we defer any kinds of heavy discussion about this chart. Let me know if you want to discuss it offline. We can, and bring it back and make it an agenda item next time to approve this chart next time. This is going to be quick, Mr. Guy?
Very quick, can somebody just briefly say what General Assembly delegates is? I probably ask this every year, but I don't
General
remember.
Assembly delegates. There's a meeting.
They participate in the New Hampshire School Board
Boards.
Association's annual delegate assembly. They are advocates for school boards and public education.
That's January, isn't it?
January
February?
every year.
It's one meeting.
This is the assembly where your resolutions are submitted and presented.
I'd make a motion for Mr. Guide.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
We talk about this next week? Look
Yeah,
it
that's
over,
fine.
let me know.
Yep.
We can move on then, thank you. So let's, I guess we gotta approve a couple of these, I'm just getting spoken to by the superintendent. And the same thing as curriculum. Curriculum is supposed to meet next week. And policy, we need to get policy up and going. I think we're okay on the others to wait another week. Are we?
Could we just approve those two committees?
I'd like to
Yeah,
approve those two.
I'll make a motion to approve curriculum and assessment policy as read.
Right on those two people, all those people?
Just a quick question. On the policy, is it Jen and I both, or is it?
Both.
Okay.
No, both.
Both
All
of
right.
you,
So
yeah.
I won't be able to attend next week's meeting.
I was just gonna ask, when is the meeting?
Next will be Thursday, the 19th, before the regular school board meeting. It's always the,
We've been having them every meeting.
yeah,
We've been having policy every, right?
we've been having policy, you
Yeah,
should
then we
discuss that in your policy committee work, that's your work to
We
decide.
can work that
I was
out.
just wondering when the next meeting was.
I would say Thursday, the 19th, and then just
Unless you two decide to
decide.
do it on a different day.
Work with Kathy and they can
Yeah,
call it.
you can
What
decide,
works for you?
yeah, if that doesn't work, we'll work it
Top
around.
name's the chair, second person.
Oh, so we're, okay, I didn't realize that.
Mr. Doobie's the chair, yes.
And so you just work with
I
Kathy.
was hoping this was going so swiftly.
Happy to do it.
Just
So
tell
we
me, tell
have-
me when to be there, Lee.
Sean made a motion, I believe. Is there a second?
Dan made the motion.
Dan made the motion. Do we have a second?
I second my own motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Jen. We're accepting curriculum and assessment as written.
And
Okay?
And policy.
As policy, yes. All right? All in favor? Okay, that's 9-0, and we'll discuss the others next week. If we could put that back on the agenda, please. For discussion, gives people a chance, and gives Mr. O'Neill a chance, if I could have a chance to catch up if he can. Quickly, school board annual report article. Oh, no, I got school, oh, you put them in the wrong order here, I'm following this. School board treasurer, no, it was a mistake. Treasurer search committee. Right now, we have, Brian, Kim, and I have volunteered to be on the search committee. Is there anyone else who wants to be on the search committee with us? We have 3 viable candidates at this point.
Do we need to add anybody to it?
I'm just trying to offer Mr. O'Neill a chance to jump in, get his feet wet, or,
I'm confident in everybody's abilities.
thank you, that's awesome. we're holding it to the 13th. We had a little bit of problem with getting in the paper and getting it, so 13th is the closing date. Then between Brian and Kim and I will work out when we can get together and see the candidates, whether you want to see the materials first, decide if we want to interview all three. Okay, yes?
Now,
Ms. Kim?
this is also for SAU treasurer, is it not?
Yes, yes. I believe it is.
Okay, so,
So do you want me to ask somebody from the SAU board?
I mean, you can represent, I mean,
Any of
you
us
may
can.
want to. I mean, just, it is the SAU treasurer, and we don't have Hampstead included.
I will, Kathy, remind me and reach out and ask them if they'd like to. We didn't, because I was the SAU chair, but okay. I represented both things that, on the other time we've searched for somebody, right? Is that what we did?
That's what we did.
That's what we did.
Okay, so I'll reach out and say would anyone from the SAU Hampstead person want to participate?
Does the SAU have to approve, or?
They'd,
All right, so once the search committee picks their person,
Yep.
does the SAU need to do it first, or Timberlane do it first?
depends who gets the meeting first, probably.
Whichever meeting's first is the way
Whichever
it's gonna
meeting's
go?
first will
That's
be
fine.
They're gonna probably be back-to-back nights, I think.
I think they are,
Okay,
18th,
so
19th.
hopefully you'll have your answer by the 18th of whatever candidate you
Recommendation.
guys want,
That'll be fine.
or recommend, sorry.
Out there in TV land, where the treasurer is still open, if you'd like to send a resume in to Kathy or myself, we'll try to get you lined up, and if you're interested in doing this, we'd love to have you. There is a stipend, it's not a volunteer position. So it may feel like a volunteer position, but there is a little bit of money. Kim?
We did talk about that stipend. We're gonna have another
Right,
discussion
we'll have to have a
about that?
discussion about that.
Before we interview?
I think the committee should probably make some recommendations back to the board about that.
That'd be a good idea.
But we'd also need to talk to the SAU board.
Might
And-
happen on the 18th then.
But
They
that would-
meet first, so.
Correct, but I think we need to have that before we start interviewing candidates.
So you'd want to maybe push those interviews off after we've met.
I don't know.
I think we can work out the logistics. I understand what you're saying. All right. I don't think we need any action, Kathy, on that. We're all set. We've got the same people.
By consent, then? if
Yeah,
that's
by
happy.
consent. And then we're at,
I'm sorry, can I go back to that for 1 second? I also think that the SAU board should have a copy of the non-public minutes that were part of that treasurer discussion last time, after this board approves them.
I don't think so.
That was the SAU treasurer that sent in a resignation letter also. I'm making a motion that the SAU receive a copy of those minutes.
of the non-public minutes that we haven't
Once
accepted,
they are
yes.
approved,
That
once
is
they are
from this
approved by our
yeah.
board. Once they are approved by our board.
They're sealed.
They are sealed.
This
They're-
board,
They're sealed, only this board can look at them right now.
that's right, but we can make a motion
So what's,
to
what's
allow
your
the
motion?
SAU board to see them.
not sealed? So maybe you want to rephrase that motion to, can we bring it back around when we do the minutes?
Yes,
That's
let me
7
think about
minutes.
that.
Think through that a little bit, thank you.
Withdrawing your motion?
I'm withdrawing my motion for now.
Trying to get through all these things. Training, no, now, school board,
Training. The article.
the article. We have an article for the annual report that former chairman, Mr. Boyle, I believe has prepared, is that correct? And we have it here tonight. Give me a clue as to what it looks like. It's this one? This one, this one.
You just passed it, Brian.
I don't know.
Yeah, you did, you just passed it.
Oh, thanks.
Got it? Everybody got it? So we need to, what the action needs to be is, we would move to accept the report as written, or make changes, anything you wanna do. Thank you, Brian, for doing this. And then get moved along. Kelly.
Make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that.
Discussion, corrections, glossy photos to be added. If not, I'll call for a vote unless you have any questions. No questions? I'll call for a vote to accept the annual report respectfully submitted by Mr. Boyle. All in favor? Second, not unanimous as well. Thank you so much. We're getting through this. Almost there. School board training opportunities. Hey, I had Kathy send out to you opportunities, and you kind of voted, and Kathy put those results in my packet about what we wanted to do about training. Actually, it was Mr. Doobie that had questioned, just in a side conversation, hey, is there training available? And we said, yes, there's Concord does things, we can go up there and have training, they can come down here, we can have our own legal team do it. So, if I read this right, 2 people were interested to go to Concord. 1, 2, 3, 4 people were interested to have the session, have New Hampshire school boards come to us at a calendar date to be chosen. And 2 of us were interested in having the legal team do it. And some of us voted, I was okay about doing a couple things. I was okay with having them come to us, so it looks like the majority, if there's, that 1, 2, 3, 4 people who responded thought having them come to us and do a specific training or a general training was most comfortable. Do you want Kathy and I to see what we can come up with from New Hampshire school boards? What would be something you'd be looking for? The orientation one?
That's it. Maybe some of this as well.
Which one?
Personnel actions.
Personal actions workshop. Now, who went Danny, you've been a couple of times, haven't you?
Yeah. So I guess my thing would be, is that I'm fine if you guys want to have them here and you want to have them here do the board role and personnel actions or whatever, but if it's not for the new school board member orientation, I'm going to recommend that we still send the new members that want to go to the new school board orientation that they go.
You can see the date on there. You can go up to Whitefield, which is a lovely little drive.
Good.
They have lovely biology up there. And, or you can go to Concord on Friday. I think it's Concord. Is it Concord?
Yep.
So there's the dates and we have, we will cover the cost of the workshop. If any of you, particularly new members, want to go to those. I think Danny really, go ahead, Dan.
So you asked me, I did go. One of the things when you do go is, so it's not just they talk to you, but it's like an open forum, so you can ask questions and everything else. But the bigger part of it, when you go to anything like this, is there's other school board members there that are in the same seats you are, deal with the same issues you do. And some of them are real veterans that have been doing it for like 20 years, and they're still going to these new orientations just to ask questions and bounce things off of other members alone. You know, so I think it's a good idea to still go to the orientation.
I think it is as well.
Yeah.
Other thoughts, Lee?
So I do plan on going to most of these at their locations, not Whitefield. But I still think it would be good to have them come to us and maybe do some type of blended training of all 4 of the components that are in the
I would
packet.
like a blended training.
They can do that, because there's a customizable, like, what do you want? This is what we're looking for, and they can put it together.
We've done that in the past.
Cover the real salient points of the training. 'Cause
The one we had down here when I came on, I thought was great. I really enjoyed that, but. So shall we have Kathy kind of look into a possibility of a hybrid kind of thing and find some dates that might work, hopefully? And again, if any of you want to go ahead and have Kathy book you, we're fine about that, right? Let them go to Concord or Whitefield, and participate if they wish to. We don't want to, we're not turning you away from
Yeah, I think
getting a training.
we need a motion for that, though. I think we do.
Make a motion then.
We'll make a motion to fund any training that anybody wants to take at this New Hampshire School Boards Association.
Second.
Are we okay about that?
And bring somebody in, get a price. I mean, we're gonna find out if they can do what we want, so I guess I don't really need a motion on that yet,
Right,
right?
right. Lots of times, the New Hampshire School Board Association does it for free. Just, yeah.
Okay,
They'll do
so
that.
then, yeah, my motion stands.
So what I can do, Madam Chair,
Jen Silver and I can cook.
if you'd like, I can get the topics and send those out to the board members. They can express their interest in that and maybe come up with some dates.
How about that?
That's fair.
Sure.
So we have a motion on the floor and a second to allow members to accept some training, and we'll cover those costs. So all in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, we are now at 8:47, and we have on our agenda 9 o'clock renominations.
Ms. Dowd?
Wow.
I'm gonna ask Ms. Christie, Ms. Michelle, and Attorney Dowd to join Christie.
I'm all set when you are.
So this is the renomination of staff, and I just wanted to make a few comments. First, you know, I'm sorry. I know it's been a very difficult week. It's been a very difficult week for Ms. Michaud. It's been a very difficult week for staff. It's been a very difficult week in the district, primarily because we have some tough challenges ahead of us with a budget that is significantly short in several areas, and Attorney Dowd can talk to you about that shortly. We're about $700,000 underfunded in special education, $500,000 underfunded in transportation, and we're $350,000 underfunded in our food service lines, and those are all part of our default budget that was put together by the school board last season. So the last 6 years, it's a tricky thing, and it's normally not this many staff. It's not normally this many staff, but I have strong feelings about the fact that in the event that we were not going to be able to invite somebody back at this time, that they should hear about it before a renomination list was approved by the board, and you were to find out that you were not on that list. So in as respectful a way as possible, and it was not ideal, I'll admit that, getting, Ms. Michaud with building principals, getting around to all of our buildings and sharing this bad news. For some, it will be temporary. We hope to be able to call some people back in the near future. But we've done this the same way, and I can't speak to the previous superintendent for the past 6 years. It just hasn't been as disruptive, primarily because it's been much fewer in number. And so for some staff, a non-renewal can be performance-based, and for some staff, a non-renewal can be not a good fit, and for some people, a non-renewal can be, we just don't have the money at this time. So working over the last month, obviously with Ms. Michaud and Attorney Dowd, and crunching numbers and trying to find out what staff can we afford. So the renominations that I'm providing to the board tonight is a very conservative number. Very, very conservative number. I can guarantee that we can afford all this staff without any impact to programs, but it's not an exhaustive list. It's not the end. So why tonight? Why? Well, we have an April 15th deadline. We have to notify staff by April 15th if there is a chance that we will not be able to afford them in the 18-19 school budget. So unfortunately, that puts some people at risk. Now, it used to be like this in Massachusetts, but they moved that date to June 15th. If we had until June 15th, the likelihood is many of those notices would not have gone out this week. But unfortunately, because of the default budget and the way it was structured, we have some very, very difficult decisions to make. So tonight I'm bringing forth two lists, renominations of professional staff and then obviously building administrators. And once we have those, per policy GCK, tomorrow morning, and Ms. Michaud and I already talked about this, I'll start to populate the staffing. The superintendent's recommendations, we have to work together as a team to staff, and then to find what's the next layer, right? What's the next layer of staff that we can bring back, hopefully as early as April 19th. That's my hope. And then we'll see what we have left for funds, and then we'll work with the school board in terms of how many people can we get back. I wish I could tell you that every single person that received a notice would be back. I wouldn't be telling you the truth. We have some challenges in this budget. We're gonna do, I gave you my word. This is not the first, this is not new news. This board heard over and over and over that the default budget that was being presented was going to create some sacrifices that we were gonna have to make. I said I would do the very best with whatever this community offered us for resources, and that's what we're doing. And like I said, this is not an exhaustive list. My intention is hopefully by April 19th, we'll have some more staff back. And then maybe by that first meeting in May, we'll have a really good idea about what we have left for staff. There are sacrifices that were made. I kept hearing, oh, you just cut teachers. It's not. No, that's not accurate at all. It's not even close to being accurate. Sacrifices were made in every department across the board. And then we have to try to prioritize and see where we go from here moving forward. But like I said, this is a very conservative list. It's not an exhaustive list. Many people will be called back over the next few weeks. And again, I apologize for any turmoil or how upsetting this may be, but by law, we need to notify staff in the event that we may not be able to afford them. So with that being said, at the board members all have in their packet, they have a list of people that we're renominating. And here's how this would work. Whether they voted on it tonight or not, all these people would have contracts come April 15th, whether they voted or not. These are the people that I know we can fit in this budget. The people that we're unsure about, or those people receive notices, and we would have to let them know, so that they would have an opportunity to, look for other employment maybe. There are unemployment costs that we had to take into consideration. There are just a lot of challenges. It's in terms of this budget, but I do have hope. I do have a good feeling that we'll be able to grind through this and get to a place where we're comfortable, and Timberlane will be back feeling strong and proud. And I understand we're feeling a little wounded. We're feeling a little weak right now because of the process that we have to go through. But that's the reality of a challenging budget that we're looking to execute. So at this time, like I said, the nominations are in the board's hands. There's a list of teachers, and there's a list of administrators by law that they needed to have for renominations for this evening. So I don't know, Christie or Jeff.
Christie, did you have some things you wanted to present us with, or? Yeah.
Madam Chair.
So, hang on a minute, we need to, receive a motion to put these nominations on the floor? Or accept them. So I'd like to get a motion and a second, and then open it up for questions and discussion. Not have the discussion and then the motion. We can do it that way. That follows for me how I see, my parliamentary procedure here, if I can. Danny?
I'll make the motion to accept the renominations as put forth.
I'll second it.
So motion by Dan and second by Kelly. Now we'll open the floor up for discussion or comment. Yes, Brian?
First of all, I want to apologize to the staff that I was unable to. We were trying to get a meeting last week because I know this is I guess definitely it was a painful week, and it's still going on with a lot of family and students and staff. I'm still confused. I learned about like most people, I learned about through a newspaper article and something covered in Channel 9. And I'm seeing things, and I guess it's already in the works, of layoffs up to 50 people. Well, no one's ever presented this board with budget shortfalls of $4 to $5 million. People say, "I get that money." Well, how'd you get that $4 to $5 million? Well, if you start talking 50 people, and I know there's all kinds of, there's staff as low as 15,000, and probably staff up to 130,000. Your man year works out to 80 to 150,000 minimum. So I'm very confused how we are in a position here tonight as a board. We have very good staff. We're asking to be made a decision to approve some, and I guess I know by statute the superintendent has all kinds of authorities. What happened in the last 24 hours of people getting pink slipped. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. During delegations, we heard, as I expected, cries from staff, residents, board, do your job. The default budget that was passed was $71,800,000, approximately $300,000 more than last year's operating budget. The Tim Lane School District last year ran on $67.2 million. You get some kind of margin in between there. When you go into a default budget, there probably, by design, will be no surplus. We went through, a lot of you people attended the meetings, several meetings of budgets went from 67 up to $74 million. One budget was talked about that I believe was 72.8, which the superintendent said, well, that'd be my comfort zone because that'd give me $1.8 million surplus. Okay, that's 71 million. Okay. We're at 718 right now, ladies and gentlemen. And I, as a board member, am not comfortable without, I understand, knowing just general numbers that happened on this campus in the last 48 hours. But I think we as a board should know what that is. So Dr. Metzler said that it involved everybody, whether it's administrators, cafeteria workers, librarians. I, for one, again, I'm confused at this $4 to $5 million number. I mentioned that to Madam Chair about an hour before the meeting. First time we've chatted since the newspaper article. And I don't know the number the superintendent is trying to get to by making these cuts if you're trying to pick up $800,000, $1 million, $2 million. I don't know what the number is. I don't think the only person probably knows, people know what's in the number is probably the superintendent of schools and probably the business manager. For the best of my knowledge, there is no board member that knows what we're trying to achieve here. I don't know how we as a board vote on this tonight without knowing the best way to develop the best product for the district. Because tonight, we got in our packets the recommendations. We all heard there's several people, I don't know if it's 20 or 120, that received slips in the last 24 hours. But I think it's crazy for us to make this decision without hearing different options we as a board may have. We are the governing body. Superintendent recommends, we approve. I know that when Dr. Farah was actively involved in the drafting of the default, to the best of my knowledge, didn't it conclude the whole, covering the whole staff, Kim?
It did, the only step.
Wait.
No, he's asking me a question.
So,
Yeah, you don't get to just randomly do that.
okay.
Point of order, please.
So, I guess this is why, pretty safe to say, I mean, nice trip these people are gonna go on, but it's pretty safe to say the world's here tonight to talk about this item. So,
Right, I've given you a lot of leeway with trying to talk about the motion. I wanted you to have a chance to express your concerns. But we got a motion on the floor. And so talk to us. This is a board meeting. Go ahead, Kim.
A couple things. I was one of the three that requested a special meeting along with Mr. Boyle and Jen Silva. Sean was not on the board. Was told that you could not attain a quorum. Wasn't contacted about who couldn't do that, but I just wanted to bring that up. Mr. Boyle's correct. In the default budget, as it was approved, the salaries in both regular and special education were the same as the district's proposed default budget, with the exception of 2 deans that had been eliminated and 1 position that had not been filled. So the idea, which I didn't know anything about, and for the people in the audience, the school board was as unaware as you until the papers came out that we were looking at 50 cuts. I can't figure it out based on looking at this budget. Even if you are gonna have that many cuts, it's up to this board to reapportion the money within this, what is now the approved budget. So I think by eliminating all these positions, before you have a discussion with the board, in line with what Mr. Boyle said, is that it's premature. It's up to this board to look at this budget and see if there is money that has to be pulled from those salary lines. I've asked for year-to-date financials. The last financials that were posted are the end of November. I've asked for contractual obligations for SPED. I've not seen those. We do not have a completed audit from last year, so I can't ascertain whether or not those numbers are 100% valid. We had a $2.7 million surplus, but I have no idea right now where we stand, and we're being asked or being told that we're looking at 50 teacher layoffs. I'm in higher education, I'm a teacher, this is just making my stomach turn.
Mrs. Sylvia. I'm trying to give you all a chance. Mrs. Silva, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'll try to be as eloquent as I can about it, but I'm pretty upset about this. You know, like my peers said, hearing about this in the paper, hearing that we're going to lose 50 employees, having my children come home, asking me, where are their teachers going? It's upsetting. I've asked for a special meeting. I've asked to go over this ahead of time. I've asked for the staffing summaries as of October of this year, so I know where we are. How can I vote on a direction of where we're going if I don't even know where we are? Okay, I'm just not comfortable. There's no roadmap. There's no path. There's no direction here for the board to tell us what direction are we looking to go in. What does this budget mean? What are the goals? Where do we hope to be? And how can we get there? This feels very backwards to me to ask me to approve these renominations. And it's not that I don't want to renominate these people. I just feel like maybe there's more that should be in this list. I don't know how many people got pink slips. Was it 50? We don't know. So that's why I was in favor of having a special meeting before this point. I would be in favor of meeting tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't care how often I have to come back and sit here and meet, but we need to get this right. And I think it's premature to just throw it out to the news that I'm cutting 50 people, go pink slip all these people, and then here, I want you to renominate these people, and I don't know what that means, and I don't know where we're going.
You're here. Other comments, Mr. Doobie?
So the renominations are just, they're a normal part of the process. Unfortunately, there's 50 staff affected by it because of the default budget. When we look at our budget, the key areas where the vast slice of the pie goes is salaries, transportation, food services. So I want to see more options. I want to see, different variables that we look at. Are there programs? Yep, it's a small piece, but it's some money. Is it some transportation modifications? Again, small money. Will it bridge the gap? I don't know. But if we can at least see those options and what that looks like.
So are you expressing that you don't want to vote on these nominations tonight? Because the motion on the floor is to accept these nominations.
Yeah, I know.
Tonight.
And we're up against a hard deadline.
I'm going to ask the audience, this is our meeting. You're welcome to be here. I'm happy you're here. But please be respectful of our business meeting. Dan.
Can we ask the superintendent or the business manager what the April 15th deadline is exactly? How is it mandated, or whatever, whether it's a CBA or whatever? And what happens if we pass that deadline?
So, Dr. Metzler, I'm going to allow Dr. Metzler, who's our educational expertise on this, to explain to Dan.
The April 15th deadline is the deadline in which you need to notify somebody in the event that they may not be part of next year. Whether they vote on this nomination list or not tonight, these people will all have contracts next year. I can also tell you, if you met every single day for the next week, all these people that are on the renominations list tonight will be on every list that we make. I made it very clear it's not an exhaustive list, and we would be calling people back as we were able to free up some money. Mr. Boyle, you and I had a conversation, and you said, don't budget for unemployment, they'll all find jobs. We have to budget for unemployment. That's part of it. You don't save every dollar when you pink slip somebody. No, I'm not done yet.
Good, I'm not either.
Okay, I'll let you speak to him, but let him finish. He has the floor, and then I'll recognize you again.
Okay.
You should be making your comments to the general board, though.
So part of when you save a salary, potentially, there are unemployment costs that you have to budget for. Certainly, Attorney Dowd can explain that. You can't not do that. You would overspend in a way, and you would certainly not be able to. We'd be here next April or May, apologizing because we overspent the budget. If many of these people were unable to find employment. So again, be very clear. The renomination list is a list. It's not an exhaustive list. This is not, but this is the core that we would build forward on. Everyone on these two lists would be on every list moving forward. It's just that April 15th deadline. You have to notify people in the event that they may not be on the final list. Because if they don't get notified, they are on the final list. That's how it works.
So I guess that's my point, is that if we don't tell somebody before April 15th, they're automatically in a contract.
That is correct.
Now, Mr. Boyle, I'm going to allow you to have the floor again,
Thank
and
you.
then any other questions? We'll call for a vote.
Well, that's why God gave you 7 days a week and 24 hours in a day. There's going to be a lot of time between now and April 15th. Yes, we did have a conversation about unemployment. Yes, I did make that statement because we have the strongest economy we've had in God knows how long. So I was more concerned about trying to save as many staff as I could versus reserving money for potential unemployment. Myself and Dr. Farr have had several conversations with the superintendent that there is different ways to exercise $71,800,000. There's not one foolproof way. We never got to that conclusive with option A, B, C, and D. I strongly recommend we have a special meeting to address this.
Other concerns or comments before anyone who hasn't had a chance to speak, and then I'm going to go back around and let people have a second to, Sean, you haven't had a chance, I don't think, to speak on this motion.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
You're welcome.
I understand that Dr. Metzler would like to present these lists on both sides, the teachers and the certified administration component of that. But this board should be the ones that dictate what positions are filled, and we may decide as a board that we're willing to trade some administration positions for teacher positions. And to reiterate what Mr. Boyle was getting to, there's got to be a number that Dr. Metzler is trying to reach. What is that number? Because 50 positions does not add up to 4 million, 2 million. What is that number that you're trying to hit?
Are you willing to answer that tonight, or is Jeff willing to answer that tonight, or does that need to come back and get an answer?
Well, I think at some point, there's some inaccuracies here because you only act on my recommendations. You don't make your recommendations about staffing. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to put the most people in front of our kids and keep the same level of services. So, there needs to be a little bit of a buffer. We can't run it down to $200,000 and cross our fingers and hope we have enough money next May and June. So it's a process. We're working on that process. There's a different expense associated with every position. And so those recommendations will come in a series of a process till we get to that number. and where there's a comfortable buffer so that it's not a structured surplus, so to speak, but it's enough money to make sure that we can pay the bills right up through the end of June next year. So that's how it works. There are laws, and the board acts on the recommendations of the leadership team, primarily the superintendent. They don't make recommendations to us about what programs we have in terms of academics.
Before I call in anybody else, Sarah, you haven't had a chance to speak,
Yeah.
and Kelly hasn't, and I haven't, but I'm gonna reserve mine till the last, so.
So this is difficult, and like Jen, I'm gonna have. When I saw the headline, I immediately thought of the kids. The whole reason why I ran was for the kids and for our staff. Since the headline, I've talked to numerous teachers who work in the district, obviously, and a number of people who live in Plasto, and they've expressed their concern for the class sizes and the impact that this is going to have, especially in the elementary school level. Right now, there are classes that have 25 kids in them. Are we gonna be looking for a waiver to have then 29 kids in a class? I mean, that's unacceptable. When my kids were in elementary school, the class sizes were a lot smaller. And even then, the teachers had challenges, just because we have such a diverse population. We have so many wonderful students, and so many wonderful teachers. I worked with Mrs. Parker back in high school at Sweet Hill Kindergarten. I know her passion for children goes back since she was 15 years old. So it was very difficult. And I want to understand the impact more. It's our children and our teachers are what make this district and our schools so amazing, and to go through this list, it's just, I just need to understand the long-term impact and what our students are going to be experiencing next year if we lose so many educators.
Kelly?
I've been on the board quite a while, and this is definitely how it's been done every year I've been on the board. Maybe not quite so publicized and quite such a large number of people. I've always been about the kids. I've always been about the teachers. I went to this school. I've lived in this district my whole life. Like Sarah, I signed up to do the right thing for the kids and for the district. This directly affects my children as well, and not in a good way. Having kids that are scared, they don't understand, and you try to explain to them what's going on. I can feel that, and I feel it from both sides, because I also know that sitting here, we certainly have policies and rules that we have to follow, and our hands are tied to a point. We can only do so much. So I'm willing to do the best I can and make as many concessions as I can to make everyone, most beneficial. I don't want to super negatively impact the children by cutting too many programs. I feel that's more of a direct impact, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form stating that removing a teacher from an area is not a direct impact. It is. It's hard to look at, perhaps you could get that teacher back when you can free up some money by moving something around, or perhaps changing the structure of something once certain people are nominated. Where if you cut a program, it's very difficult to get that program back. It's hard to bring that back once you've gotten rid of it. So I don't know what else to say on it. I feel the pain. I myself am a teacher. It's a little bit different where I teach. But they do affect my budget sometimes, and when they take stuff out of my budget, my students, albeit they're adults, it affects their learning and it affects the stuff they need for their classes. So I do see it all the way around. So I don't know what else to say. I feel bad, and I will do every effort to fix this as far as we can. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Kel. I'm gonna give Brian a second chance, and then, if we're just repeating ourselves, I'll wrap things up, and then we'll
Thank you.
bring it to a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I will ask Superintendent, you must have a number in mind. When you came across that number saying 50, I'm assuming between you and Jeff, you must have had a number in mind you're trying to achieve financially. Was it 1 million, 2, 3? What number are you trying to, do you have, is that how you?
The money number.
The money number, the financial number.
We didn't have a number.
This is all about a budget. We have 71.8.
The
So
number-
you're to the best of your ability, you're trying to address and staff the school to provide the education in Timberlane at 71.8.
It's a, yeah, if I, you done?
Okay, thanks.
It's a process, again, right? So our hope was through the rest of April and in May and into June, and so to your thing, what are the impact statements? Well, we need to get the core, you know, I'm gonna apologize in advance for a bad sports analogy, right? So, you know, you're gonna give us most of the team, we're gonna put the team in place, and then we're gonna say, all right, we need a second baseman, a shortstop, and a center fielder. We're gonna get them, we're gonna find out how much that costs, and we're gonna continue to add and add and add to minimize the impact. We worked directly with principals, this wasn't people guessing, this was the educational professionals making decisions in the best interest of children. So it's a process, it's not an exhaustive list, right? Again, I'll say it again, everyone on these two lists will be on every single list if we met every single day between now and up to April 15th. We will be adding to this list. This is not an exhaustive list. Mr. Boyle makes a very good point. You know, it's a budget. What's the number? I'm not focused on a number. I know I can't go over the number, right? And I know I need to leave a little bit of a margin, but I want to know what the impacts are at every particular school before I settle on a number. So I may put some pressure on our business administrator to say, like, yeah, I know we were trying to get to 71.2 or something, but we have to add 3 more because we got this situation at Atkinson, or we got the situation at Sandown, or we got the situation to understand what the impact is. But this is the first stage in a whole bunch of stages in a very challenging, you know, I know you want to see options. There's going to be plenty of options. I'm telling you, this is the core. Every option is going to be built off of this core, right? It's the first step. And everybody on these 2 sheets would be back in every scenario possible. And then we'll add as we go. And I would imagine the next 2 or 3 meetings, we'll be bringing names to you. People will be calling back. I said to you earlier tonight, I said, Ms. Michaud, her charge is first thing after we have this, place everyone in the positions, and then come back to me and tell me what's the next, you know, measure the impact, what's the next move, what's the next move, what's the next move. And so at the end of this, you know, hopefully earlier than later, into April, into early May, hopefully we'll have 95% of our staffing done. There's always changes in the summer. There's always additional class sizes change, people move in, people move out, those sorts of things. But to have most of the staff placed so that we'll know exactly where we are. And then at that point, we'll be able to see what the sacrifices are. Right? This isn't about trading this for that and all that. We're making the best educational decisions. I promised you over and over in the fall. This is not new news, right? That there would be sacrifices that had to be made. And so we're working that through, right? This is not an exhaustive list. I say it over and over and over again, right? So many people will be back. So, yeah.
Mr. Dowd?
Do you want me? Let me be abundantly clear on what it is that's going on here. And although it has been put out there that no jobs were cut as part of this default budget as proposed, with the exception of a couple administrative positions, a dean or whatnot, what is being fundamentally left out of that equation is that the obligations that we have for this district were not funded. Those legal obligations that we have were not funded. 600,000, 500 at least, to 600,000 in transportation at least. 530,000 were robbed from my federal funds and my food service from this budget. I have to make that up. I may not need all of that money. I need something. That was taken out of the budget. I need to make that up somehow. When we get into situations of, well, we're at 71,759 in the current year, yes, and I have increases, contractual obligations, union increases, perhaps 775,000, $500,000 for health insurance, 500,000 to 600,000 in busing and transportation, special ed costs, 600,000. So when I look at the 71,759, and I have to add the 71,5, and I have to add all these increases, and then I have to take away to bring them down to where we need to be, we're looking at a very, very conservative approach to the budget, because what I have in front of me does not work. And to further that, we have funding in one of our capital lines for $500,000 under our articles of agreement in this district. That money is for capital, not for operating. I cannot take that money and even assume that the school board would do the right thing to allow me to bring that back to restore jobs. So I have to cover transportation, my $500,000 shortfall in transportation, which is an operating expense, from where? So to come out and say that all the jobs were in the default budget, I don't know what this is about, is significantly disingenuous, and it's disingenuous to every single stakeholder that we have in this district to say, these are scare tactics, this is what's going on. And what ends up by happening is we can absorb 10, we can absorb 12 employees through attrition, through different program changes. We get onto a slippery slope, a very dangerous slippery slope, where we have to look and say, we know we need to fit people into this budget. We have our budgetary constraints right now, and even if we move money around, I'm moving money out to cover other things right now. And when we get to a point that we have to get into a larger layoff, I then do have to plan for unemployment. I have to budget for that. Where do I find that money? Where does that come from? So we know what we have to operate within, and until we're able to figure it out completely and what that picture is going to look like. And if we have someone, and the superintendent can speak more to this, but if we have someone who is not able to be renewed, or they may not have a skill set, or even if we have someone leave, they may have a skill set or certification that we need. We may or may not be able to call that person back, and we need to have the flexibility. The meeting tonight and the renewals you have in front of you are for those that we are sure and certain about. Am I confident that the situation will get better as we go along? Yes. This is not a budget that I prepared. I am trying to work within that which has been presented. And if it were, and we knew that there were a certain amount of positions that would be eliminated, and even with our budget at 72.8, there were still positions that were eliminated as part of that budget. Let's not forget. And now we're significantly lower than that. And I have money caught up in capital I don't think I can use. Maybe I can. Maybe this board will authorize me to use it. $500,000 I have caught up in capital that would be very, very useful for jobs. They're not there. So I have other things that I need to cover, including transportation, including special education. And one thing that I'm really beside myself on this, 'cause I don't know how to treat this. We heard over and over and over, the services that we subscribe to as a member of CERESC provide us with the ability to receive discounted services for our students, particularly with certain high intense needs. We don't have a lot of people, there aren't a lot of people that provide these services. Estimate would be 2 to 3 times the cost if we can get the person. If we can't get the person outside of CERESC, we're gonna have to outplace that student. So we might spend $200,000, that has now become $600,000, because $15,000 was not included in that default budget. Do I have faith that the board will allow that to be reallocated? Right now, it's not there. Right now, it's not there. So I just want to be clear with everyone in this room what the situation is. And when we get to a point that when we get into talking about more than 10 or 15 or 20 people, we really need to be very conservative about who it is that we can commit to bringing back, because we really don't know what those needs are going to be based on what that final equation is going to look like and what it is that we have in front of us right now. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but that's it.
This is a comment that you haven't already stated. This is a new piece of information.
Yeah, I have a question.
All right, I'm calling on Kim.
How many people are not on this renomination list?
You're asking me that question? I don't
I'm
know
directing it to you as the chair. Feel free to ask whoever.
that. Are you wanting to give us that number tonight?
It's not an absolute number, because this list is not just, no.
I'm gonna ask the public
Listen,
again.
I don't think.
Don't make me, stop. Don't make me change your seat like I'm in a classroom here. You're being respectful to each and every person who's speaking, whether you agree with them or not, as we have been respectful towards your opportunity to speak. Please. Thank you.
It's really a, and this is gonna sound somewhat interesting. It's a trick question because this is a list of teachers and this is a list of administrators, and there are people that were not renewed, that are not either one of those two. So you're asking for a number out of the blue of a list of all these people about, and this is a renomination recommendation. It's not a non-renewal recommendation. So we're going in a completely different direction. The number of total staff members, right, is about 62. I believe the number was 62. But that's not teachers and administrators. That's sprinkled out. There's all different people. So who's not on the list, who's on the list, and there are so many different reasons why they may or may not be on this list. And I'm not discussing that. Not tonight, not tomorrow night. There's not a non-renewal has multiple meanings, and so the list in front of you are the people that I'm nominating per policy, per RSA, the law.
Another question. Sean, we'll go all the way down the line. How's that? That seems fair.
Okay, what I have the problem with is that, one is we're just getting this list tonight, so we have not time to digest any of this, except for the newspaper articles that we were fed. The names on here, for example, the administrations,
Don't.
I'm not gonna admit them, I'm just, in a column, the assignments are all to be determined. So how are we supposed to figure out what positions that we have? And going back, touching back on my other comment is, if we don't approve, we don't feel good about a certain couple of these positions, we don't vote for this. And then what happens is that we're not having another meeting right now, as we've discussed, before the 15th date. So then everybody's automatically approved. So you get a decision of bad or even worse. So we really have to have another meeting here to digest this. And I'm willing to say that I would like to support, everything's on the table. Programs, we're looking at trying to say things and what works, what doesn't. Everything should be debated, because not just the teachers should be the ones that are front-facing. Our students should be the ones paying the price for the workmanship around here.
Mr. Boyle.
Well, I guess my understanding of the RSAs is the administration nominates, we approve. We don't get to add anything on that list, but without our approval, that list doesn't happen. Now, if we do this, if we tonight approve this list, we as a board are probably losing one or two options. I have no idea how we can do that in a default situation we're in right now. We clearly need multiple scenarios. I understand who the experts in the room are. It's not me, but I do know that what I have in front of me, whether it came from Channel 9 or whether it came from any other news organization, this is not the way this school board should be making a decision of this magnitude.
Here, here.
Mrs. Silva, going down the line.
Well,
I'm gonna have you removed if you keep speaking out rudely like that. It's not appropriate and it's rude to the speakers. Thank you, Jen.
when I heard 700,000, 500,000, 350,000, that comes out to a little bit more than 1.5 million. And then I heard about 62 people were not invited back, all inclusive of whoever, I don't know. I don't know how 62 people equals $1.5 million. I would like to see a staffing summary of where we were at in October 2017, and I would like to know the direction where we're going. Policy IIB, before January 31st, the administration will make recommendations to the school board and budget committee at budget time on the number of teachers needed for the next school year based on October 1 enrollments. Do we have that information? I wasn't on the board, so I don't know.
Those are all presentations made to the Budget Committee,
Budget Committee.
department by department, school by school.
Budget.
Every single one of
So
them.
we have recommendations of the number.
Yes, there was a request for additional staff during the budget season.
I think Mr. Doobie and Mr. O'Neill and Mr. Guide, all probably heard those presentations from,
Well, that's not why I was raising my hand.
oh,
Sorry.
I was trying to answer Mr. Silva's, I thought, pretty good question. Danny?
So, most of you know, I have kids sprinkled out through every school in Plastow, from pre-K all the way up to the high school. So, you think for a second that it doesn't affect me, it affects me. I have friends that work at all of these schools. I can't go anywhere without somebody asking me, what's happening? What's going on? All because of the newspaper article. No, I don't like that. It's very uncomfortable because I don't have the answers. Nobody has the answers on this board yet. But I will say this, that if this is the list for the renominations, and if people want a special meeting, I'm more than happy to do that special meeting. That's fine. But here's my question, I guess, to the business administrator, is if we do take that tonight, take that 500 out and move it into operating with the soul of putting teachers back in their positions, what are the ramifications of that? And if, you probably can't tell me how many teachers possibly that would restore. I figured you probably can't, but, so I guess what are the ramifications of us doing that?
You feel comfortable answering that, Jeff, or?
I'm not comfortable really that, you know, when we had some, perhaps we've had some discussion surrounding how we could make that happen. But based on the way that the budget has been set up and based on the way that our articles of agreement are, and you're all representatives of your towns, your respective towns, I will still question how we do that. Because I'm taxing each of your towns at a particular rate, and I'm spending that money in a way that I haven't committed to spending it. So I think that's the very first question. And I'd like to explore that a little bit more, because it's previous to this, that had been something that we really shied away from. If we raise money for capital, we have a way that we charge the towns for that capital. And if I raise that money for capital, which it's in the budget right now for, and I spend it on operations, employees, I'd like to do that. That would be the goal. It certainly would help. I have to get comfortable with that, you know, that can be done. And I don't know how to do that. I think that perhaps there are some solutions out there, but getting over that hump, I think that would certainly help.
Answer your question, Danny?
Yeah.
I'm gonna recognize Dr. Metzler.
Yeah, just to add to the answer, whether you move the money tonight or not, it would not change the process in which we've already committed to staffing these buildings, right? I made it clear again, it's not an exhaustive list. After you take action tonight, if you take action, we'll price that all out, we'll know what we have left, and then by April 19th, we'll be bringing back some more names to you. But that April 15th deadline is the reason we had to act quickly in terms of the non-renewals. And so the process wouldn't change much, but it would help. It'd be more money added to our ability to bring back more people, but the process wouldn't change.
I understand the process wouldn't change, but you'd be able to bring back more,
That's correct.
which is kind of my goal.
And I would say, you know, you're asking, you know, what's the 500, and Jeff's gonna kill me, you know, it probably 7, 8. He's shaking his head. He doesn't want me to do, you know, because there's benefits involved.
It changes, and I totally understand that.
But we pick up the unemployment, it's a tricky formula, because we pick up the unemployment we had to budget for, but there are benefits involved, retirement and those sorts of things, so.
I wouldn't expect a full answer tonight.
This district is exceptionally gifted in the staff that we have, and I continue to be impressed by the work that we're able to do and the engagement and where the district has come. That said, if any funds were to be considered to be transferred, I do need some money in that account for something. So if the amount were 400, it would cover some of the major things that I need to hedge against.
I understand.
So just bear that in mind.
We have a motion on the floor. So what you were asking, I gave you some leeway because it does perhaps color a decision you might make tonight, but that's not the motion we have at the moment. Sarah, did you have some, I'm kind of going around a second time. I'm trying to make this fair so that no one says they didn't get a chance to speak. Jen, back to you, and then I'm going to call for a vote, I believe.
I'm not comfortable with this. I think about, if we're looking at how to spend this budget, and I look at these signs, manage, money, better, keep, what's the rest of it? Teachers, right? I really would like to look at how we are managing the rest of the budget. We've heard about that bullseye that Dr. Metzler talks about from the outside in. And right now, it feels very much like we're talking about starting with those people that are closest to the students. I really would like to take a look at the outside in before we start talking about letting go teachers.
The negative part about being the chairman is that everybody in this room knows where my heart is. I have to lead from my heart, I speak from my heart. There are people here I've worked with. There are students I had, colleagues I cherish. The reality is we have a budget that's, in my humble opinion, not the board's opinion, but my humble opinion, is rather low, dangerously low. But it's what we have to work with. And I apologize for whoever said tonight, roll up your sleeves. I am more than willing to roll up my sleeves. But this is the starting point. Give us these people and let us work, roll up our sleeves. As many meetings as we need to have to get it built. I'm hearing more and more people that are more than willing now to have a meeting and to roll up our sleeves and get into what can we do? Can we move money? Can we reallocate? But we need to have the experienced people to help us lead the way. And it starts with, I'm going to call for a vote. The motion on the floor is to accept these renominations tonight.
I make a motion to overrule the chair in regards to calling this question, please.
Second.
Call for a vote. All in favor of overruling the chair? 4. Against? 5.
Can we just get that, you guys went very quickly. It was
It was Kim, Sean, Brian, and Jen to overrule the chair, and it was the Dan, Sarah, Lee, Kelly, and
My feeling is that we've had ample, we've heard all of our feelings. You've all had a chance to express how you feel. I hear, everybody's heard you.
Let's call for another meeting next week.
But I believe we should, I believe,
We can't.
stop, both of you. Neither of you have the floor.
You can't.
Neither of you have the floor. We have a motion on the floor and a second. I'm gonna call for a vote. All in favor of the motion that's on the floor to accept these renominations, please so vote yes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Against? 5. So the motion fails. So.
Madam Chair, I'd
now
like to-
I'll allow you to suggest what you'd like to do.
I would actually like to call a meeting sometime that's mutually agreeable by the board members over the next week.
If it's it has to be specially noticed, and we have to make sure we have posted it. We have to, and our superintendent is out of town, so we need to make sure our assistant superintendent is able to be with us, and we are covered with all the people we need to help us make the best decision. Are you understanding me?
Correct.
Correct. How would you like to go about that? Do you want the secretary to poll to see what nights are available? There are obligations, other obligations in this room. There are other obligations in the district. We have district employees that have obligations. So how would you like to go about it, Mr. O'Neill, since it's your suggestion?
I'm perfectly capable of meeting any day of the week that you want to meet.
Can you let Kathy know? Can we do that? Would that be?
Can have Kathy send out a,
Let Kathy send out a, she has like this little chart she does, and you just check off, I'm here, the night I can do
days
it,
work.
the day, and she'll look ahead and see what's available. She'll put it so that we properly noticed a meeting, and that we're not gonna get ourselves entangled in not posting it properly. Jen, question? On what that Sean's suggesting?
Well, more about a comment that you made. I'm not trying to sound insensitive to whatever is going on in this room, but I feel like this is probably the most important issue facing the district right
We
now.
had a vote, and it's 4 to 5.
I don't know, but as far as talking about clearing the room, looking at the schedule, I think we should.
Do you want to do it right now? Pull our calendars out and do it right this minute?
Well,
Find another night?
I'm available any night.
Okay, you've said that. Sean said that. Brian?
I just want to piggyback on what Jen said, that I'm not sure what superintendent's got going on next week, but this is clearly the biggest thing going on in Timberlane right now. So whatever your office has to do to make this happen, we need the support of the administration so we can deal with this thing sooner than later. You have an April 15th deadline, we all know that, so.
Mr. O'Neill, why don't you make a motion? Make a motion that directs the superintendent and his officials to set up another meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have a second? Okay, Kim seconds Mr. O'Neill's motion.
I would actually like to make an amendment to that. I would actually ask the superintendent to include in the assignments on the certified administrations component, so that they're no longer to be determined, but with actual positions.
I mean, where their assignment would be, you mean?
Correct.
Can I speak to that?
Well, he's got an amendment, we haven't got a second on the amendment yet.
You did.
Who did? Kim, did you second the amendment?
No, not that amendment.
Do we have? We only have, one amendment. So do we have a second
I'll
on
second it.
Mr. O'Neill's? Brian will. So now I'm gonna allow some discussion on the amended motion, which
Well,
is
it's the amendment to the motion.
amendment to the motion. Thank you.
Do you want to explain why you want that?
I would like it so that I could ascertain each one of the positions on here,
Brian.
and then I could look at it in a global Timberlane School District aspect.
I understood. I think I understand what you want. I'm gonna let Kim speak, and then I'm gonna let the superintendent give you his take on this, because he is.
Okay, I think what you're asking for probably is even something that's more, in one sense, more general, but more detailed, is that we want to see what losing 62 people, where these 62 people came from. Because certainly, you can't make the assignments for next year right now, because if I were losing 62 people out of 700, I would have to reorganize. So what I want to understand is, you've taken 62 people out of and not renominated them. I want to be able to see what the current organizational structure is by school, and what happened when you removed those 62 people, where they came from, and I want at least 2 options of where we can go from here.
Okay.
You've got, hang on, you got a couple of
I will hang
programs
on.
that were added, and I'm not proposing that any of these come out, but these are expensive changes in the last few years. We've added deans at a cost at the time of around $350,000. We've added foreign language in elementary school.
gonna be
No,
careful
no,
here.
No, I'm just telling you.
Well, we have
All
people that are very
options-
sensitive to
I
what you're
understand that.
saying.
I'm not a proponent of any of those. We need to take a big look at what we have here, how we can reorganize this, and we can only do that if we have enough information.
And
We
that would
need
be
the
one thing that
actuals.
we'd be pushing our sleeves up and doing, wouldn't it?
Yes, if we have the information.
But
which-
we don't do that.
We don't reorganize his staff.
No, we don't reorganize the staff, but we approve the renominations.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor and an amendment on the floor. Mr. O'Neill's made an amendment. Dr. Metzler, did you want to speak to the amendment?
I would be happy to speak to the amendment. What Mr. O'Neill, I guess you want to know what their current positions are? Because the to be determined is not determined yet about what they'll be next year. They're renominated for an administrative position, and there will be some reorganization, and that has not taken place yet. So if you want their current positions, I can put those on, but you will not have next year's positions yet.
Would you like those?
That would be
That would be
adequate.
helpful. Do you understand that in some circumstances, there are people that are moved from one school to another? They have to be credentialed to do those jobs.
Understand.
Yeah, and can I just, and so we keep throwing out like 62, and it's not the right number, and I've told you that a number of times, but you just keep saying it. They're not 62 teachers.
say
It's
anything.
not six,
I
next
said
door.
62.
There's 62,
Personnel.
you want, you're not gonna
Personnel,
find 62
not
personnel
teachers.
on these lists.
No.
They're not all on these lists, Kim.
I understand
order.
that. I understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, both of you need to stop. Just stop. All right, we have an amended motion on the floor.
Amendment to the.
Amendment to the motion. Are we ready to vote the amendment? Can we hear the amendment?
The amendment is to include the assignments on the nomination list.
You
on the
mean pass
renomination
now,
list.
right?
Past assignment?
Right? I mean,
Well, the
Current
discussion-
assignment,
Current
modifying
assignment.
it.
Are we modifying the amendment to?
We modify that? Who gave the second?
Brian
Brian, are
did.
you
I did.
willing? At
Sure.
least gives you a starting point so you can see them.
Current assignments, okay.
Current assignment. Okay. There's no other questions or comments by the board. I'm gonna call for a vote. All in favor of the amendment? That looks unanimous. Now we have an amended motion, so now can you read me the whole amended motion? Please, Ms. Secretary.
The motion was made by Mr. O'Neill to direct the superintendent to set up another meeting and include current assignments on the nomination list.
Do we understand the amended, the motion as it has now been amended? Jen?
Can we amend that a bit?
amend it again.
Amend the amendment, amended the amended motion? I don't like to do that.
Okay.
Don't like to do that. Like, you could, like to vote this, then doesn't,
Can I just make a comment about?
I'll allow you to make a comment about
I'm just
the-
concerned that there's no specified date by which we have to have that meeting.
He said next week, didn't you? Yeah, he said next week in the motion, so,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
oh. I'm pretty sure he said next week in his motion.
I'm looking at the board members.
Is that what you
Board
said next
members.
week?
I can get that.
He did.
Next week?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Next week. So if you'd
Okay, it's
add
added.
that in. So now could you read the entire?
Motion is to direct the superintendent to set up another meeting next week and include the current assignments on the nomination list.
Kim,
Sorry, that,
comments about the motion?
No.
So, any other questions, concerns? If not, I'm gonna call the question then. All in favor of the motion? 9-0. Right, please give Kathy a chance to catch her breath and look for available venues, et cetera. We have to staff the room, et cetera.
He has this Thursday night.
Okay, all right, we'll discuss it now. We're done? So, we are on to administrators' report. Dr. Metzler?
Sorry, Dan.
I think Dan had something.
He was waving you down.
He did.
All right, you mind, giving your time off, giving you some time off? I'm gonna give you some time off and give Dan a moment.
So, I kinda wanna throw this out there before this meeting that, and I may make this motion depending on how everybody feels, but to move, I know Jeff wants to know more about it, but to move 400,000 out.
You wanna do that tonight, or
Yeah,
would you
I wanna
like to
do it
do that
tonight.
next week?
That way, he already has it, and it can help him decide what's going on from the
You know, this is,
4,600 account.
this will get very
Hang on.
detailed.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, I'd rather it was done now, before April 15th.
I agree.
I'm gonna give it a
That's
little
my
leeway to
opinion.
have some discussion here.
I'll make the motion, if you guys want me to make the motion, so we can put it out there and discuss it, I'll do it. I'll make a motion to move 400,000 from the 4,600 account into the operating budget.
I'll second.
Good enough?
I'll second.
Operating budget?
Brian is
You mean
seconding
what?
that motion.
Got it.
So prior to the MS-22 being signed,
No,
No, it would be after.
No, it'll be after.
after, okay.
It would have to be after.
I have a right to ask a clarifying question
No,
myself, don't I?
no, I would say, if I have to word it, it'll be after the MS-22 sign.
Okay,
Jeff,
so
did you
we're,
want
we're in
a
consensus
certain
of that?
I'm getting this signed quickly as I can before.
That happens. Is there a number that you wanted in or no?
I think.
Or that would,
I think that it would be probably more beneficial, from my perspective, for 400,000 not to be moved, but more for our consensus to be, Jeff, what would this look like if 400,000 were not in that account?
Can we do it, Jeff? What would this look like?
Yes.
And
I'd rather have that.
Because if you're gonna just have him do that, you're doing it, what Sean is saying, it's a little more complicated than just move it.
So,
It's
if you
not
want
that
this,
simple.
Would you, no, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, sorry,
Thank
thanks. Would you be willing to have it ready for the special meeting, if Jeff could have it?
yes.
If that's possible? I don't know if, I don't wanna speak for you and put too much on your plate, but is it
We don't know
possible?
when the special meeting's
Well,
gonna
I don't
be.
believe
It's
it'll
gonna
be tomorrow
sometime
night,
next
because
week.
we can't post it properly. I don't believe. It won't be tomorrow night, so you've got a
Correct.
couple of days. So do you wanna rescind your motion and just make it a generalized, please, that'd be one thing.
Show us what it looks
Some
like.
of the things, Kim has a long list of things that we've mentioned here, that'd be one of the things. And take some action that night? Or how do you wanna
Always
leave it?
having options is always a plus.
I mean, that's why I threw it out there.
Options are good.
Oh, there's multiple places? Oh, I'm sorry.
There's 3 copies of that, yes.
Oh, no wonder.
So what's your pleasure, board? This is a meeting, business meeting.
I saw Lee had his hand up.
Lee, did you?
I'm just kinda hanging out here.
Okay.
So if we go, I like the line of thinking, it helps solve a problem, I wanna know what the tax impact is to the towns. You know?
Yeah,
Mo-
our
moving from
public
here to-
needs to know that there would be some tax impact.
Absolutely.
That's right.
So, Jeff, if you're gonna present that,
no, there's no tax impact, you're still getting taxed.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? That when the MS2 is MS22 is submitted, that is the basis upon which
oh, you're talking
After.
yep, after.
Also, after there's no impact.
There's no impact.
there's no impact.
There was only before.
It's the before.
Then we know what it is, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Okay, so what's your pleasure, board? Are you taking your motion back? Who made the motion, Dan?
I did.
Dan,
And
seconded by
Brian
Mr.
second.
Boyle.
Brian, do you wanna, we'll change it to see what it looks like? Like, we wanna see what it's gonna look like?
Good idea. I'm with you,
At
brother.
that next meeting, whenever it may be.
I'm with you.
All right, so then
This is
that's.
good, this is good. Danny and Brian are together.
Take a picture of that.
Collaborate, compromise, collaborate,
I'm
compromise.
good with that. I'm good with allowing that to be
So
option A, whatever.
now
it
can
is.
Mrs. Belcher,
I have fixed it to Dan motion to see what 400K, moving 400K from the capital 4600 account to the operating budget would look like at the next meeting, seconded by Mr. Boyle. Will that work?
how does that sound?
I think that's fine.
Can we move the question? I'm gonna move the question. All in favor of the motion? That looks unanimous. So we'll make sure that's part of the work, our roll up our sleeves and work that we're gonna do at the soon-to-be meeting. Now, we're on to administrator's report. On to,
I'm sorry, can I just go back to the special meeting, because we need to figure out what it is that we need for information in order to have a productive meeting.
okay, so I've
If we're
heard
just gonna
something
get another
Sean wants.
renomination list, that's not gonna be helpful.
I thought you had quite a long list, didn't you?
I did, but that was just my list. I
Well,
don't
make-
know if the board is, do you want me to make a motion? I mean, it's really kinda hard for me to come up with an exhaustive list while I'm sitting here. I mean, I threw out a couple ideas, but
Could our financial experts come up with an exhaustive list?
I would actually like to allow you to make that motion because she gave a good intro of what she could add,
Yeah,
what would be
she
a good
has
motion.
quite a list.
Because we're gonna have one more shot at this,
That's right.
and I wanna make it a good shot. So go ahead.
You want some time and come back? There you
Can
go.
somebody record what I just said? Okay, so,
Give them some
I guess what we need to know is, one, I need to know what positions are not being filled. I need to see a list of what that looks like by school, to see what that does. I mean.
I'm listening to you.
Okay, I'm just, don't know if this is unreasonable or not. I need to see what this budget picture looks like. Clearly, you're moving money around in the budget, which ultimately the school board is gonna have to approve as fund transfers, correct? So, I mean, you're basing that on something. I'm still trying to go back to whatever that number was of staff, not teachers. Well, one, I would like a breakout by staff, teaching staff, non-teaching staff. I mean, sir, it's.
I'm listening. It's a long list,
It
and
is
it's
a
a
long list,
convoluted
but-
list. It's a detailed list, and even Mr. O'Neill's looking at you like, wow.
No, I think it's great
It's a
information. You're gonna
long
need that to
list.
ascertain.
It's a long list, and Mrs. Silva's saying start at the outside and work in. Somebody else sat at the middle and work out. So, start at the outside and work in. We got 71 done, work in.
Well, I think what she's saying is start out.
No, she starts here.
So we need. I guess it's hard to come
Bigger
up with
picture.
it. We need to see what positions were removed, what the rationale for that was, what other options there might be. We need to look at what the expenses of certain programs are, and we need to. I always like to have two options here as to how we can make this budget work with the least impact on the direct people that are with
What
the
if we had
students, which
three
are the
options?
teachers. So.
Options, more options are better, correct?
Absolutely.
Mr. O'Neill agrees?
Correct.
So that's my motion.
Holy.
That was a motion?
That was a motion.
Is that a motion
I
or a
see that one
list?
typed up,
Hitting the witching hour.
but I'll second it.
Stop.
I missed that. Was there a motion and a second?
I'm sorry, I was just kind of joking. I'll be happy to provide.
I don't think this is one meeting, gang. I really don't think this is one
No,
meeting.
I don't either, and that's why I called this.
You don't get to redefine the process in which we go about our renominations. You don't. Like, we'll renominate, we'll give you the information you're asking for, but you don't get to change the whole process. You get to vote on my recommendations. You don't make recommendations to us as to what is in and out of the budget. That's not how it works. Read the RSAs. We'll make the recommendations to you and you can vote on them. Yes, Mr. Boyle's right, you have to approve them.
So then clearly they're probably gonna need to be different than these recommendations, because we just didn't approve these recommendations.
No, they could be the
Might
same.
be the same with the titles on them.
Best to see the names of the positions. Okay. Are you making this a formal motion? Because Kathy's trying to get it
I
written
will make a
down.
formal motion that we see what positions are not being filled or were, quote, pink slipped, in this first iteration, and that we see what the fund transfers into the various budget lines look like as you're reconfiguring that budget.
Okay,
With
stop.
the two
Let's do it in
options.
small, okay. 2 options, so that's 2 things. Can we do it in small chunks? Maybe motions in small chunks when you make a great big one like that. So you've said 2 things with 2 options.
I'd like.
So can we stop there and get a second
with
and
two-
vote that? And then I'll recognize you again if you have other things, or if other board members wanna add things.
I'll second
It
that.
keeps it a little cleaner. Mr. O'Neill is seconding. Mrs. Belcher, did you get that motion?
Did not get that motion.
What part did you?
Why don't we start from the beginning? That would be great. We can start from the beginning. That would be helpful.
I have to get Dean with the videotape going.
No, the video
Sorry,
was not the,
it's not my fault.
not the.
Okay, I'd like to see a list of positions that were not renominated.
Got it?
I'd like to see what we're looking at for transfers, what the reconfigured budget is.
Thank you.
I'd like to, going back to what the positions are by school, so we have an understanding, not just a list of, this is an elementary teacher, but by school.
Okay.
Oh, you're adding more things.
She is.
You're adding more things. That
No, I'm saying a list of positions by school
Oh, gotcha.
that
Okay.
are not being
Got it.
filled.
Okay.
Got it.
What this elimination of these 62 positions has done to the budget, right, Jeff? That's a
I'm
fair?
not sure which.
We are really, I gotta do this.
How about just stop right there? Could you
The
read
budget. Okay, so a list of positions that weren't filled by school.
By school. Reconfigured budget with the fund transfers. Okay.
In the reconfigured budget, based on
Okay.
those eliminations. That's
Mr.
it.
Okay, Mr. O'Neill.
That's all we need.
Good on that. Mr. O'Neill is seconding that. Does everyone understand that after
Yes.
It just gets way too long, and
Yep.
call for a vote. All in favor of, Dr.
Can
Farris?
I make a comment
Excuse me?
quick?
Yes.
I don't doubt that that's good information to have, but I want to caution you that working with that and changing those positions and stuff is not within our purview. I think if we had maybe some different options, as you guys were asking for, that would be more beneficial, because the stuff you're talking about, looking at positions and which ones and moving people is not something we control. So if you want options, I think perhaps they put something different together for us than that, just so we can be more productive.
I agree with you, 100%. So this is the first motion to see where this, what this looks like, and then I'd suggest a motion to see another option.
Okay.
If I can ask,
Sure.
what I would be afraid of is if we don't ask for this detail, is that the superintendent with the SAU comes back with the same list with just that column filled in and said, here it is. No, it's our last meeting. You approve it or you don't. And the points that I made earlier is that if we didn't approve of this, everybody gets approved.
Well, let's give this a go. Brian?
I agree with Kelly. My concern, Kelly, is that the person we would need to put our options together is not gonna be available this week.
I agree.
So, that's definitely a, easier thing to work on if there was 3 options prepared by someone of that staff. Then, I mean, this is good information, but it would be fantastic to have 3 options, or, you know. So, I don't know what's, you know.
Anybody else before
We have to start, we have to do something, you know.
That's why I felt we could start here and then roll our sleeves up, but that motion failed, so here we are. So the motion now on the floor from Dr. Farrar. Does anyone need a clarification or to hear the motion again? If not, I'm gonna call for a vote. All in favor of Dr. Farrar's motion? 4, against? Another motion? So the motion fails.
Thank you.
4 to 5.
Can I just,
I don't
on the
know.
budget? No, this one would be helpful, it might be helpful for Dr. Farrar.
Okay?
I'm not 100% sure about this, but maybe, hey, Jeff, before you go in the other room, I don't think we moved any money into salary lines for staff, correct? I don't think we took money and put it into the staffing line. There wasn't any budget adjustments. I was working within the default budget that you put together, You know?
I certainly would not expect that any money would have been moved into
Nothing's
staff
been moved.
lines.
Yeah,
Nothing
so there
has
wasn't
been
anything moved for staffing. Maybe I misunderstood your motion, but I think,
I
you
think
asked-
what I'm asking for is clearly the shortfalls in the budget are outside the staffing line. I'm asking not for what got moved into staffing, but what got moved is potentially getting moved out of staffing.
We can't just move money around, Kim. We have some hypotheticals we're looking at. We can't
That's
just
what
take,
I understand.
you're asking us to move the money around. We don't do that.
Okay, stop. He understands? You understand? Is there another motion? Do we have another motion for any incidentals we can put together for this, I guess we have to call this a special meeting? Brian and then Jen.
Well, it's not really a motion, I guess I'm Lee, you were part of 5 that said we should have a meeting.
Say that one more time.
We should have a meeting.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, now we're trying,
All of us. said
okay,
we should have
so,
Unanimous.
thank you. So,
We all agreed we'd have.
so why
a
we
meeting.
picking out
what
Lee?
information would, you know, I guess,
Why are you asking Lee? Is Lee
because
somebody?
what was the vote that was 5-4?
No, we voted,
It was 9-0, Brian.
Okay, what was the vote?
Unanimous.
oh, 5-4,
Now,
4-5
This last vote on Kim's
For
motion.
Kim's motion.
for Kim's motion of what things we,
Lee voted against the nominations, but he also voted against
so did some of the
more
rest of us.
No,
information.
Why are you
I'm trying
questioning
to, I guess I'm asking for one of to see, if we're gonna have this meeting, what people would like to have.
Okay, I will
with
let
them.
you make a general question like that, and then if
I can
people would
answer.
like to respond,
Okay, so right
stop,
now-
stop,
All right. Point of order.
we're out of order.
Can I answer? Mr.
I'm gonna
Ward?
let Mr. Guide speak, and then if Lee would like to speak, I'm gonna let him speak. and then Jennifer.
Well, as of right now, I put that 400K out on the table, so that's gonna be one option, right?
Absolutely.
One of the things we're gonna
It's
discuss.
gonna be one
in
of the things
special.
we're gonna discuss, it's gonna be one of the options, I hope, of what it looks like.
Sure.
So, and I didn't vote in favor of Kim's motion because I really don't think it's any of my business or your business how many teachers Pollard has. Like, to a point, right? I don't know if there's too many pre-K teachers, K teachers, first, second, third. That's his job, not mine.
Okay, well,
That's
I'm
why.
not, I understand
That's
what his
fine.
job is, but I personally do have a concern, so.
Okay.
Lee,
Okay. So I voted against the renominations because I didn't have enough data. I didn't feel there were enough options. I voted against Kim's motion because that was, to me, a lot of data behind decision-making that I'm trusting him to do. Trusting him to manage the personnel aspect of it. I want to see options. I don't want to see just staffing. I want to see what the other options are.
which I believe that's what Jen was speaking towards. I'm gonna let Jen speak, because I recognized her, and then I'll come back to you.
I know I asked for this a couple of times, and I still, if it can be included for this special meeting, I would like to see a staffing summary from October 2017, so we can know where we are now, and I would like to know where are we looking to go? What does that look like?
Would you like to add, did you like to make that in the form of a motion that somebody could second, and then we could vote on that?
That needs to be, okay, you want that as a motion?
Yes. If that is, I'll second that.
Re-say that?
No, I think we got it. Kathy, did you get it?
Yeah.
Current staffing,
From 2017, from October 2017.
October 17.
The summary like we see in the
Right,
annual report
which is a
summary.
year behind.
Which we
Yeah.
developed.
You know, that's DOE
It's not
stuff.
done yet.
And the 17 one isn't done yet.
But it's data that we have. If that report is based on October
count?
2017,
Head count.
then
FTEs or head count? What are you looking
Head
at?
count or FTEs?
whatever that is in that annual report, what does that look like?
It's a head count in the annual report.
Head count's not
Head
FTE. Full-time equivalents are different.
Yeah, head count it is.
I feel like Jeff gave us something like that.
Yeah. So that's what you want?
I think
See
that was
what we
based
can
on
put
FTE.
together. It's not gonna
I
look
don't
like
remember what
that
it was,
report,
but I
because
feel
that
like
report
Jeff
doesn't
gave
come
us
out.
something.
Okay,
That's
all
okay.
right,
It's
all
it's
right.
information I have.
Whoa, hey. All right. Miss Kathy, you all set?
Did someone second that motion?
Dan, Sean did.
Yes?
Sean, a comment on this motion?
Wouldn't we be able to just say, what do we have right now today would be more accurate?
That's what I was saying, but currently.
So
This many
is that
teachers
something
in
that,
college, these
Dr.
many
Metzler, could we
assistants.
provide what we have today? Like what we have now versus October of 2017?
That's fine.
We'll look at what we have, and we'll make our recommendations at the next meeting.
That means what?
I think,
That means exactly
We
what
don't
you
have
did-
it,
what
where
you
we
just
do.
said. I said, we'll look at what we have, we'll try to make sense of it for you, and we'll present
make
it,
sense
and
to
then we'll
me.
make
I'm pretty sure it
recommendations to
will.
you.
okay. Are we clear on the motion? We're gonna try to get an accurate, that's why was trying to say, what do we got right now? How many teachers are there at Pollard? How many teacher assistants? How many library assistants? You want it that broken down, or you just want body count? I don't mean to be rude, but count.
No, I'd like it broken down.
By, how?
How is it broken down in the annual report? I'm sorry, I had those with me, I don't have them with me right now. It's by
School,
teacher, yep,
administration, nurses, governance. We'll do the best we can.
okay.
To try and get it, so you have a starting number.
Yep.
Once again, have a chance to start someplace. We haven't started any place yet. So, Jen's motion on the floor. Everyone understand? Kelly?
Yeah. Is this something that's possible to do?
Well, I'm looking at Christie in terms of, what we have for time. Like I said, I'm away.
I know.
So, we'll do the best we can. Like I said, we'll see what we have. We'll try to make sense of it for you. I think, one of the things that, I've said this a number of times tonight, that renomination list, whether you have more data, less data, or all the data in the world, that renomination list is not changing. That is the staff I am coming to recommend. And so that's coming, and then we will build from that. So if you need to see a grid where we worked directly with the principals, and that's fine, and I'm looking at them trying to figure out how, where do we get to this? We didn't move money around. We worked within the default budget. Remember I said it was underfunded, so we had some sacrifices and challenges to make. We did that knowing that you probably would move money at some point, and we'd be able to start replacing some of these people. We're working on impact statements. By doing what you're doing tonight, you are limiting our options in terms of administrative reorganization. Just understand that. We'll get to the personnel report soon. But you're limiting our options. You're limiting your options, not just my options. But that's fine. We'll just put them all down as where they normally are, and we'll have vacancies. And those are vacancies, I'm telling you, that you will have to fill them. So it just limits our options in terms of a reorganization.
Right. But people can see the visual. You'll see the visual at this next meeting as best as they can put together. I think we have some very good people here that can give us what we want. So there's a motion on the floor. Kim, towards the motion, please.
I need to go back to Dr.
No.
Metzler's. No, I don't understand what he was saying.
Please don't make him repeat it.
What part don't you understand?
We're limiting our option, but you keep telling us you're gonna come back with the same renomination list regardless. So
Yeah, but
how
what
are we
positions,
limiting it?
what positions they're in are the options. That's why it's to be determined.
Sean is asking for their current position. That's
know.
not-
I know
that's
that.
moving forward.
We'll
That's
give
right.
you that.
And but that doesn't limit anything.
Oh,
He's
it
doing
does,
is
but
asking.
you wouldn't understand it. It's a staffing issue that we.
Come on, Earl.
Alrighty.
I only have one PhD.
I'd really like to move this motion. I think we all understand what everybody is saying. Jen?
Just to clarify, I don't, and Mr. O'Neill, maybe you can correct me. When you're asking to know.
Who are you asking?
Well, because when he asked about having those positions where they are now, I'm not sure, were you asking for them to be on the renominations as in being renominated in that specific position where they are now? Or that you
I
just
would
wanted
say
to
that
know
if somebody is a
where they
principal
are now?
of a school, will probably be, with a high probability, a principal of a school next year. So that's,
I think
it's
if
a
you
one-to-one
knew that
translation.
This was a Pollard third grade teacher. I'm sure there are names, we don't all know those names.
Correct.
So it's a starting place.
I agree.
I agreed with Sean, I'm fine about that. But but the flexibility that we should be remembering is, when it all works down, there are people sitting in this room that haven't spent their whole career at the middle school.
No.
Just because I did.
And if
It
a
doesn't mean that everybody does. They get,
That's right.
based
You
on
move
their
up.
credentials, they move up, they move over. It's how it goes. That they can teach fifth grade if you want, happy to teach fifth grade at Sandown or teach fifth grade at Pollard. We have an open, we need you over there. That's what happens, so.
No, that's
I'm
fine.
not-
That's
I'm not
exactly,
pocketing them into, they gotta stay at Pollard.
no, I would agree with that.
Can I just clarify the rest of that, though?
I'll let you clarify,
Yeah,
but we're gonna vote this motion.
Okay, the part of you not understanding is the part that, Sean's right, a principal is a principal. There are many administrative positions. And so some of the positions, what we call them and what their skill sets are and what the needs of the district, those will change a great deal with those lists of renominations. You're right, the principal's probably still the principal, but there are a lot of other positions. And so we have to assess what the needs are, look at the skill set of the people that were renominated, and put them in the positions. Meaning, sports analogy, bad sports analogy, maybe a second baseman might be playing third base next year, right? At a different school, in a different role, because we have a need, right? And so when we do that, and I've met with some of the people individually, I said, what are your career aspirations? What do you want to see yourself doing down the road? These are the needs of the district. Man, it's great when they match up perfectly and I can move you into that spot. If you just took the time to count up the administrators and you looked at what was there before, I think you're going to notice there's less administrators on that page. Quite a few. And that's why this is a skeleton of what we're going to need. This is the beginning. This is the basic. We were going to build off of this. Nothing's going to change about these two lists moving forward.
But maybe you'll have more information.
Yeah, you'll have more
As Mr.
information.
Doobie's saying, maybe you'll have more information.
But if I renominate somebody in a role, they're in that role now. It's just a lot more. It's a lot different than having a to be determined where I can move them into a different position.
Let's go back to the motion, please, that's on the floor. Can we hear the motion one more time, Mrs. Belcher, and unless it's to the motion,
Mrs. Silva, motion to have the staffing summary from October 2017 for the next meeting, seconded by Mr. O'Neill.
Uh,
I don't know, did that get changed to current?
would you like to have that?
The October, we didn't
Current
change it. 'cause
staffing.
We talked about it, but it didn't get changed.
Change it then, take your motion back and, what? Trying to tell you what to do.
Your motion, go ahead.
If you wanna change it, if Sean's okay with it.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Current.
Me too. Okay.
Instead of October
Change,
2017.
okay. That's fine.
Current staff.
Staffing, yep.
Current staffing, and Sean's willing to take a second back and support
Correct.
that change. Okay, we're back in business again. Anything now to this motion?
I have a question. I was building on what Dr. Metzler was just saying. So by having their positions listed on the list that assigns them to that position for the renomination, it removes any flexibility to move them around. I want to understand.
Not completely, but there is an understanding when they're renominated into a particular position, that's their position.
That's their position. Okay.
It just creates a whole lot of unnecessary work.
Okay. So by just leaving them to be determined, it provides flexibility to match the best person, you know. and
We've
move them-
agreed to do that,
Yep.
and then we can, when we hear it all and you see it all and see the visual, you can say, well, we'd like those removed and
Okay. I
and
just
then
wanna make sure-
renominate with a little more flexibility.
This is to give us an understanding
That's right.
of what a teacher's position is at what particular school, or an administrator in their position, as it is today. I completely understand that's subject to change going
Right,
forward.
Okay, so we might have to, in fact, do a little something else, but come back to that list and say, you know, we're not locking them into third grade Pollard, but we wanted to know where they were.
Correct.
You right, am I right, Sean? I don't
I'm,
want to
I'm not expecting somebody to be locked
in.
in to that position.
Okay. I just
Okay.
want to
But
make
it
sure
has a very high probability that that will be the position moving forward.
So the motion on the floor is for head count or count as of now. So I'm gonna call for a vote. All in favor of adding that to our meeting for information? That looks unanimous. Are there any other motions you'd like to make for, to additionally direct,
Well,
um,
to be determined.
preparation for this meeting? Sorry, just, Kim, something else.
I think it would be good for everybody to have, and I know I have this, but new members probably don't, the current number of students per school, per grade, so you can see, for instance, the
Okay.
high school is
All right.
losing people next year.
So, current students per grade as of today,
Today, if they have it, whenever,
all schools?
all schools.
All schools. Total count of students?
Yeah, it's all posted on the DOE website.
Yeah, that's on the DOE, but it doesn't mean that you want current as of,
That's fine if it's posted by, I have it, it's not a problem
it
for me.
is, we can get you that.
Can you share it then?
Bring it with you, bring numbers of copies. I mean,
I think
it's
it'd
on
be
the, it's on the
helpful.
website,
It
but,
shows you.
yeah.
Okay.
So do we want, we're all set with that?
I'll
Kim's
withdraw the
suggestion of,
motion.
bring those along if you want them, I'm fine
Yeah.
with that. For the special meeting, we can share copies. Anything else? If not, I want to move on to this administrator's report, please. That's where we took a right-hand turn into the other golf course.
Who did that?
Missing the Masters tournament. Okay, here we go, administrator's report.
Okay, it's personnel, administrative,
You don't have anything to just personnel, right? Or you do?
Brian already recognized one of the things, but.
Thank you, Christie. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, actually, the donations, there's donations, okay, so 4 donations accepted on behalf of the school district, 500 from the Alliance Energy LLC to fund the Mad Scientist Assembly at Atkinson Academy, 500 from Skelly's Mobile to also fund the Mad Scientist Assembly at Atkinson Academy, 500 from the Timberlane Teachers Association to fund substance misuse prevention event, Project 211, that was held on March 11th, and 500 from the Boys Lacrosse Boosters to upgrade the Huddle video program. So I accepted those all on behalf of the district.
Thank
The
you.
other 2, Brian already took care of, those were acknowledgements. Personnel report.
Personnel report.
Personnel report, you can see you have 4 retirements, tremendous amount of experience. You can't replace these folks. It's near impossible as you look at them. It's with a heavy heart. As you know, some of these people have just done incredible work here in the district. Joanne Georgian, Sandown North principal, has been with the district for 31 years. Carol Maroka, a middle school assistant principal, she's been with the district for 29 years. Beth Rincon, our Director of Special Education here at the SAU, and has worked in all of our buildings. She's been with the district for 18 years. And we have a teacher at the high school, special education teacher, that's been with us for 8 years, Anna Tentaro. So I'd like you to make a motion to accept those
Make a motion to accept those resignations. How do you pronounce it?
retirements.
Retirements with great.
These are with great, yes.
I'll second that.
Gratitude.
Great, what would you like?
What's the word you'd like, Mr.
I'm
Geisel?
asking you what word you usually use when you do it, since you're the one who
With
deals
these
with all of
particular people, this would be with infinite gratitude for the work they have done
There
in
you
the
go.
school system.
That works.
Unbelievable. Can you say that in there too? Unbelievable.
Nearly a century worth of experience.
It is. I like to add it all up
Yeah.
at the retirement dinner.
That was seconded by,
86 years.
thank you, Kelly.
So, motion made by Danny. Thank you, Dan. Seconded by Kelly. All in favor?
We also.
8-0.
8-0. Brian left the room.
Brian,
8-0. We're okay. Brian has left the room for a second. That's all right. He's fine. Resignations.
We've also had 5 resignations from professional staff. All have made major contributions here at Timberlane. Christine Byron, middle school special education teacher, has been with us for 5 years. Dawn Cotter, elementary teacher, Pollard, 2 years with the district. Megan Sizz, a high school English teacher, has been with us for 8 years. Amanda Hackney, Atkinson preschool, pre-kindergarten teacher, 1 year with the district. And Doris Myers, a media specialist at the middle school, has been with us for 2 years. So we wish them well. They resigned for different reasons, and look for a motion to accept those resignations.
Motion.
So moved.
Kelly is making the motion. A second by Sean. Again, with best regards and happy trails to all of you, wherever you go. All in favor? Looks like that's unanimous, 9-0. Committee reports. We haven't had any committees meeting yet, so hopefully we'll get some reports going in the next a month or so. So anything that anyone wants to, reports of the school board are kinds of what we kind of do there for everybody who's new, is we can, if you attended a concert or something you want to give a special thank you to, I would, Brian did too, give you a moment if you want to do that kind of thing, if anything special has come up. I'll make one that, this weekend is the Run of the Savages, at Pollard School. It's a huge event, raises a huge amount of money for the Jimmy Fund, for cancer research, which I hold dear to my heart. Steve Savage was a great guy, his family has continued that. So if you're around and you wanna come and participate, hand out water, or just come and cheer on the runners, I think they've got quite a few people running. So that's happening this Saturday.
Just want you to know, I had at the Acton Academy, Monday, there was another meeting for the Georgie Boy program with, pretty much was, I think Kathy Deotis and Chief Brackett pretty much got the thing going. A local Acton resident, Charlie George, lost his son. So we've got the good fortune, if you will, that we have President Chuck Morse and Governor Sununu have put a lot of money into a program, and they're going to be using Timberlane as a satellite. So I think we are going to luck out here because I think you're going to see an awful lot of state viewership that Timberlane's going to be spotlighted. So I think at that meeting, let's see, it was, I think Barry Children was there. Who was the counselor for, I think he's middle school? Tim. Tim was there, and
Kelly Bennett.
Kelly Bennett from the middle school?
no, Tim and
Susan Rasco.
yes. See what happens after 10 o'clock. I said, that's what I mean.
So if
So
he's
anyway,
got any names, he really sorry.
This is it. It's good. I got
Where's the milk?
So anyway, so it was very good. So we're going to be giving you more updates, something as that develops.
It'll be interesting to hear as they go along. Brian, if you'd represent us and bring back that information so the board can hear it, that'd be great.
Sure.
So, thank you to that family. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about under school board reports? If not, I'm going to move on to correspondence. Here is the correspondence pile since last we met. You are more than welcome to look through any of this that you feel like you'd rather. Some of you are copied, not everybody is copied on all of that. for what our, if the, address is TRSB as an email, and I get it, I will forward it along to make sure it gets in this pile. I don't think I missed anything in the pile, but, maybe somebody would say, oh, you missed that one, but I think I got them all. Every one that has come through since, before March 22nd, or this is all since March 22nd?
No, it's been before that,
Yeah,
because
so-
you didn't meet in early
Oh,
March.
okay, so it's probably, if I go to the bottom, it's probably before we had a meeting and addressed to Brian as chair.
I blame you, because I never had that problem.
Excellent.
You used to forget to forward those emails.
I've been forwarding
And that's
them.
what happens.
So
You
they're
get a
there
big pile
for-
like that.
They're there, Kathy will keep the pile, I mean, I don't know where we're gonna start storing these piles, but, we have that if you wanna see this. Yes, Mr. Guide?
If it's gonna be more than a ream of paper, I'm gonna say don't print it.
This is about a tree.
That's like 5 reams of paper right there, and that's ridiculous to print.
Maybe
and
3.
Wasteful. I really,
She's
I don't,
run 'em
I don't
off
know what
back
the
to
answer
back.
is, because obviously we don't get all the correspondence, but none of us have time to read through that.
Do you want,
So-
and I don't, certainly, I'm not asking our recording secretary to make different piles. These are the email
No,
ones,
no,
these
no.
are private letters.
But I don't know what the answer is, but clearly, that is not the answer. We can't do
Communication,
that.
that's all we've heard, one, a way to communicate, here's how we have to allow.
I understand, that just looks so wasteful. I get it, there's gotta be something that we can come to agreement on, because we can't keep doing that. There's no way we can
There's-
keep doing that.
Right. Want me to just pick one?
Can I just say it for Kathy too?
No,
It's a
Jen,
tremendous waste of time.
I know, Jen,
Is there a way to create a correspondence folder in the SharePoint?
is there a way to do that, Kathy?
Just
Does
access
Ken
and
have
look
to
at?
do that for us?
So they all get emailed to the board.
I don't think I got that many emails.
Oh, yeah, we did.
It was close.
Oh,
yeah,
yes,
we
you
did.
did.
Alright.
Oh, yeah, we did.
But remember, it's not just since May
I know
20,
what you're
March
saying,
20.
though. Like,
Let me see how,
central.
because you do it in order as you
There's a
get
lot of them in the box.
Yeah, you might be right.
Right, so what ends up happening is that individuals continue to forward
Replying to the
13,
same
14,
Yes.
15,
So
and
it
so what
comes
ends up
out like this.
happening,
Oh,
that,
jeez.
and,
We
and
can't
that
keep
it's,
running.
Those
it's,
chains,
it's-
those chains.
it's all the chain ones, yeah.
So let's see, the date, the first date,
Hey, Sue,
yes, darling,
Lee's gonna fall asleep.
who's gonna fall asleep, Lee or?
His arm's gonna
My
fall
arm's
asleep.
falling asleep.
Oh, so these are way before.
I'm just gonna keep it up here.
These, you can keep it up there, it's good for you.
Thank you.
If they're all
These are like
forwarded to us
March
anyway, do
13th.
we need to print them?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it keeps, see some of them? See? And then everyone's, you find where the chain begins, maybe the chain begins here. Lee, sorry.
No, that's fine. So, it's a huge waste of paper. It's a huge, even more so, waste of Kathy's time.
Right.
To go through and print that, collate it, lug them down the stairs, and then, is anyone gonna look at that tonight? I'm not. I looked at it.
I've already read most
I
of it.
bet you we've read them all.
Probably read
So-
most of it.
Most of them.
Everything that comes into the district
Well,
for
we've
school
got new
board.
members, so we gotta make sure they get all, you'll get all your addresses straightened out. So these might not all have been addressed to you. 'cause
That's
you're not
fine, but
elected yet.
we're all here now. We have, in the back of our packets, everyone's contact information. We have everyone's email address on record. Going forward, if it comes in electronically, email, distribute it to all the school board members. We get it, right?
So if it comes in to each, many people write Guide, Sherman, Silva, O'Neill, they do it separately. You've all gotten it. You don't need to, do you need to see it again in this pile?
Not
My
printed.
answer would be no, not printed.
If it
If it
comes
just
in,
comes TRSB,
Then I would forward it to all of us.
I get it.
Yep.
I get it.
And
Kathy
and then
gets it.
forward- I think I get it, and
Kathy
then I
forwards
forward it.
those to us.
So what
Yes.
you, yeah.
So she forwards those to us.
okay,
I'm double checking, saying, you sent that out to everybody?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hear, I didn't get that email. The
Exactly.
first time, it doesn't go to all of you.
I know.
and then you have a third option now.
Third option?
Someone uses regular mail.
Then it gets in that folder.
Yeah, there's- I
No,
don't
no,
believe
no,
there's-
no.
There's no
Scan
regular
it.
mail there.
Scan it, email it to TRSB.
Scan, who's scanning it?
Whoever,
Kathy.
Kathy would
if
have to
Kathy's
see it.
getting it. Now, that puts a new responsibility on it, but it's sure a lot less than doing that.
I think we got two handwritten letters last year, or no, none last year. 2 the year before.
I don't recall, honestly.
Do we have a duty?
So there is still the record keeping of it.
Yep.
So there's the whole thing about it is that it's, even though you are not interested in looking at it, the bottom line is it does become a public record.
Right.
So therefore, it needs to
That
be
was-
maintained in some
was my point.
fashion. So it's, I wish I could just take all that and throw it in the dumpster. Those who want to see it, but the law does not require us to do that.
So electronic record is insufficient?
Well, it all depends. I mean, it's possible that we can do some of it electronically. If the board is now asking that they no longer want to see it here, the difficulty is going to be is that when someone walks in the door and they say, I want to see the school board's correspondence, because I'm not
How do
privy
you
to
show it
it.
to 'em?
And that means that I've got to figure out a way in which to print out all the correspondence to make it available to them. So I mean, we can work, we can try to figure that out,
We
but I'm just
can
thinking
add this
in the
to an
moment that
agenda
there
or
are.
something.
Can we add this to an agenda? We've got to, I'd
But
like this not to,
and
it
it's
may
fine.
not, it
I
might,
just
it
want
ebbs and
to
flows.
Not
but
do that. Yeah, that's just not what
Let's
I want.
add correspondence
To our next regular meeting.
options to the next packed agenda. So that's correspondent folder. Vendor and payrolls, have you all seen those as you've gone around and want new members? It's a red folder. You know, it categorizes the bills. Some of you worked on the budget committee have know what those are. And now what other business? Does any board member have business that we have not?
And isn't that usually reserved for adding stuff to?
Yeah, I would like this to be things you would really like to see on an upcoming agenda, and I would show you that here, we've got this little list started, and you can see, I've slid some things down, moved some things along. One thing that I haven't seen on here is a good tripod program presentation, and that's not here. I had hoped to get it in April, but you can see April's. And if we're gonna have another meeting on working on budget, I would suggest the tripod goes to perhaps May 3rd as a presentation.
Yeah,
So
I'd
it
like
gives
May 3rd.
people a chance to hear about tripod. Kim, something you'd like to add?
Well, I think we had 2 people come to delegates that had complaints that the school board needs to address. So those have to be added at some point.
Those are non-public.
Can we address that in a non-public? I have some information to give you that's confidential stuff. I want you to see that.
Sure.
So I'm thinking about things on the public agenda. Anything else?
I'd like to
Yeah.
actually have a topic of like, handling 91A request, and a means to,
Handling.
91A request,
Right
and
to
a
know,
means
yeah.
to make it more efficient.
Okay, let's put that, maybe we can put that into that whole correspondence thing, because it really does impact the staff upstairs.
And it also makes, part of that made me think of it.
Okay,
That's a procedure.
Right.
It's not a board function.
right, but we can certainly hear what's
Helpful
happening
suggestion
there.
and a
But, yeah,
recommendation.
You can
just
make your request, that's fine.
hear how it's going there. Anything else for this next April 19th meeting? I will sit with Dr. Metzler at some point and reset this in some kind of, this is not necessarily in the order, it's just kind of written there. And anything that else comes in that happens that we have to do before we do something else. Hoping we'll have something to talk about with the auditor by next time.
I'll mention about that, where do we stand with that?
Don't know exactly. I have not I had one personal conversation, Brian's had a couple conversations. Jeff's had numbers of conversations with the auditor. My conversation was, Hampstead's was just about done. Okay, I tried to say, that's great, I'm not really interested in Hampstead, I really have to try to do this, and I don't, yay, Brian and I are on this, okay, fine. On SAU's was, the report was being written, because it's a smaller budget, right? And the gentleman working on the Timberlane one had one more thing and was ready to write. I said, write the report. Get the report done. That's the message I've been trying to say. Get the report done. Let us see the report. All we're doing is, we can't do anything until we see the report. And there'll be a management summary kind of thing, you know, you've seen those audits, there's a summary of this, and this, and we'll go from there. Right now, we don't know, so I'll keep pushing, I'll ask again, but I'm hoping it's gonna be sooner than later.
Yeah, there was a short list of just a couple of little things, and I think he gave Friday as a deadline of this week. I got an email earlier. So we're eager to see that so that we can respond to whatever their concerns may or may not be. And then, as far as the current year, we're in pretty good shape. They said they'd be in good shape in August when they come to do the next one.
Okay. So when that management letter does come in from Plazek, is it gonna go right to the board? So that we would all get a copy of that?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
yeah, I think they did.
Okay.
Madam Chairman?
Hi.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, Jeff, you came back.
I would like to, I'd like to bring to the board's attention that if this budget process were not as fouled up as it were, this would be the time of the year that I'd be preparing for next year's audit. I do have things that I need to attend to close out this year's audit. I do not want to hear, I cannot hear from this board that things aren't getting done. What is your priority? Should I tidy up what's going on for this year? Should I tidy up what I need to get done for the audit coming up in August? At this point, we're working on rebudgeting, and at this point in my cycle, I am working on getting my books prepared to get closed, and I'm working on getting things closed down for the year so that I can get into next year's audit. And I'd like to bring to this board's attention that this rebudgeting over and over and over, because we have a default budget that has no basis in anything, is taking a lot of time from my office. I do not want to hear about it. What do you?
Stop. Okay, Jeff, I appreciate you. I appreciate your passion. I do. I appreciate and.
I have this additional burden. This is the time of the year that I begin my new work, and I'm going to be hearing about it all over again. I provided a default budget for this board. It was ignored, and that's going to involve more time on my part. Doesn't seem very fair on my end to be getting criticized. Where's this? Where's that? I just want the board to be aware that that is the case. So thank you for your time.
The board has heard. Sean, I answered your question about audit. We're working on it.
Thank you.
If not, I'm going to suggest that we entertain a non-public under 95A3, paragraph 2L. Consideration of legal advice provided by legal counsel, either in writing or orally, even when the legal counsel is not present.
So moved.
Can I get a second, please?
I'll second it.
Motion by Dan to go into non-public. Are you ready for polling? Are we ready to be polled for non-public?
Sure.
Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Doobie?
Yes.
Dr. Farah? Dr.
You can
Farah?
exit quietly so we can hear the votes. Thank you.
Mr. Guide?
Yes.
Mrs. Markimer? Yep. Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mrs. Silva?
Yes.
And Mr. Ward?
Yes.
We'll let the room. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Good night.
I'm gonna seize the restroom.
We can have 5 minutes.